whispers of the unknown in the corridors of time. The history of mankind is not only a record of great civilizations, heroic deeds, and scientific discoveries. Hidden beneath the shining veil of known facts and confirmed events is a maze of dark, inexplicable mysteries that have haunted historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts of the unknown for centuries. These are stories of sudden disappearances, ominous prophecies, artifacts millennia ahead of their time, and places where space itself seems to distort reality. From the silent ruins of cities abandoned for no apparent reason, to unsolved murders that echo through the centuries, these mysteries challenge our rational understanding of the world. They whisper about the possible existence of hidden forces, lost knowledge, or even hidden pages of history that could change all our perceptions of the past. In this book, we will embark on a journey through the darkest and most mysterious corners of the human past. We will not just list the facts, we will try to get to the heart of these puzzles, consider various theories, from the most rational to the most fantastic, and feel the chilling thrill that comes when faced with the unknown. Spread across continents and millennia, these 50 mysteries have one thing in common. They remain unexplained, challenging logic, science, and our understanding of the world. Get ready to plunge into the abyss of historical mysteries, where reality is intertwined with myth, and the truth is lost in the darkness of centuries, waiting in the wings to be revealed or remain forever an ominous reminder of the limits of human knowledge. Shadows of the vanished, unsolved disappearances, and phantom legacies. History holds countless accounts of people, groups, or even entire settlements that suddenly disappeared without leaving any convincing traces. These disappearances are not just tragic, they are shrouded in such a dense veil of mystery that they suggest the intervention of forces beyond the ordinary, as if the earth itself has swallowed them up without leaving a single whisper. The disappearance of the Roanoke colony, 1590. The Roanoke colony, founded in 1587 on an island off the coast of present-day North Carolina, was England's first attempt to establish a foothold in the New World. Led by Governor John White, it symbolized imperial ambitions and hopes for prosperity in uncharted lands. Men, women, and even children arrived, including White's granddaughter, Virginia Dare, who became the first English child to be born in America. It was a bold undertaking, a harbinger of future great colonial powers. The settlers hoped to find wealth, freedom, and a new life, and their departure into the unknown was an act of great courage, but also of unconscious recklessness. They sought to establish a permanent settlement here that would become a springboard for further expansion of the British Crown, giving this small island off the coast of the ocean a grand historical mission. Once they had established their homes, they began to build relationships with the local tribes, trying to lay the foundations for a new society in the wildlands. In 1587, John White went back to England for supplies. Due to the war with Spain, his return was delayed for 3 long years. When he finally set foot on the land of Roanoke in 1590, he was greeted by a chilling void. The colony disappeared without a trace. The houses were still intact, but not a single person or body was found. It was as if the settlers had simply vanished into thin air. The only clues were cryptic inscriptions. The word Croatoan carved on a fence post, and CRO on a tree. There was no sign of fighting, destruction, or haste, as if the inhabitants had left quietly. But where they had gone was a terrifying mystery. No signs of panic, struggle, or anything else that might indicate an attack were found. Everything seemed to have been abandoned in a hurry, but there was no sign of violence, as if time had simply stopped and people had disappeared from its flow, leaving behind only silent dwellings that held echoes of their last days. Common explanations include assimilation with friendly Native American tribes, such as the Croatoans, hence the inscription. Perhaps the settlers encountered starvation or disease, which forced them to seek refuge with the Aborigines, and then they simply joined their communities. There is a theory that they may have been killed by hostile Native American tribes, such as the Saponi, who were known for their belligerence, although the lack of evidence of violence weakens this hypothesis. There may have been minor skirmishes that left no clear evidence, or the attack was so sudden and overwhelming that resistance was impossible. Another theory suggests that the colonists may have tried to make their own way to the Chesapeake Bay, where the original settlement was planned but died en route or were assimilated there. All these versions face one problem: the lack of convincing archaeological evidence or written evidence of their fate. There are no mass graves or artifacts indicating their demise or assimilation, which makes each of these hypotheses just a hunch hanging in the air. More gruesome theories include alien abduction or the intervention of some supernatural force. Legends speak of a ghost colony doomed to wander forever between worlds or be caught in a time loop, disappearing from the usual reality. There are versions that the inhabitants were victims of some unknown phenomenon that dissolved them in space or transferred them to another dimension, like stories about sudden disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle. Some even suggest that the inscription Croatoan may have been not just the name of the tribe, but a warning or mystical spell left at the last moment, perhaps to hide the terrible truth about the encounter with something inexplicable. Local Native American traditions also do not give a clear answer, adding only an aura of mystery and some mystical connection between this land and the disappeared souls who may still roam the island. Local Native American tribes, especially the Cherokee, have oral accounts of white people who assimilated with them, but these accounts are too vague to serve as evidence and are often mixed with later folklore. The region's folklore is rich with ghost stories and unexplained disappearances, highlighting that the land remembers this tragedy. The legend of Virginia Dare, the first English child, adds stories of personal despair and search, turning her into a symbol of lost innocence and unsolved fate. Some locals claim that to this day they still hear strange voices or see strange lights on the island, as if the shadows of the colonists continue to wander in search of peace. Or it is the land itself that has absorbed their fear and despair and continues to whisper about them. What really happened to the Roanoke colonists? Why was there no sign of a struggle? What does Croatoan mean if it's not just the name of the tribe? Can an entire village of people disappear without a trace, leaving behind only silent ruins and an unsolved mystery that continues to haunt American history, making everyone who sets foot on this land feel the cold whispers of forgotten souls and wonder? Who or what erased them from the world? The riddle of the brigantine Maria Celeste, 1872. The brigantine Maria Celeste was a modest but reliable commercial vessel built in 1861. Her previous voyages were quite ordinary. She regularly transported cargo across the Atlantic. However, her true fame did not come through her voyages, but through her sinister fate. Captain Benjamin Briggs, an experienced and conscientious sailor, set out on this voyage from New York to Genoa with his wife Sarah and 2-year-old daughter Sophia, which was a common practice for captains of the time. The ship was in good condition. The cargo of 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol on board was valuable, and nothing boded ill. It was a typical merchant ship of its era, whose routine task turned out to be one of the greatest maritime mysteries, forever writing its name in the annals of phantom ships. It symbolized the reliability and predictability of maritime transport until it became the epitome of absolute, frightening unpredictability. On December 13, 1872, in the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean, about 400 nautical miles east of the Azores, the British brig Dei Grazia, commanded by Captain David Morehouse, discovered the Maria Celeste drifting without a soul on board. What the boarding party found was eerie. The ship was in perfect order. The sails were partially removed or damaged, but not disastrously, as if they had been hastily furled. The cargo was intact. Provisions for 6 months and the personal belongings of the captain and crew were still in their places. There was a half-eaten breakfast in the galley, the dishes were unwashed, and the sewing machine was in the middle of sewing, with the needle still piercing the fabric. On the table was an open tube of throat salve, indicating a recent presence. The only things missing were a lifeboat, a sextant, a chronometer, and the last page of the logbook. No sign of a struggle, blood, storm, break-in, or fire. The entire crew of 10 people, including the captain, his wife, and young daughter, disappeared without a trace, as if disappearing into the sea fog. leaving behind only the sinister ghost of a serviceable but completely empty ship floating on the waves of silence, whose history has become synonymous with an unsolved mystery. The most common theories suggest that the crew may have abandoned the ship out of fear. It is possible that alcohol vapors from the cargo began to leak, raising fears of an explosion, and the crew temporarily evacuated to a lifeboat, waiting for the vapors to dissipate. This would explain the lack of rush in saving things. However, if that was the case, why didn't the lifeboat return, and what happened to it? Why were no bodies found? Other versions include a sudden but short and violent storm or a giant wave that could have washed people overboard, although the lack of serious damage to the ship and deck equipment contradicts this. The piracy theory is unlikely because of the untouched cargo and personal belongings. Mutiny or civil strife on board is also not confirmed by the absence of signs of a struggle. Another version is an underwater earthquake or an underwater volcano that created a threat. But again, this does not explain the disappearance of the boat and all the people without a trace. During the Gibraltar investigation, despite best efforts, no conclusive cause was found and the case was closed with a verdict of unexplained disappearance. Against the background of the lack of logical explanations, more fantastic theories flourished. These could be alien abductions, attacks by giant sea monsters, such as a kraken that stole a boat, or some unseen predator, or even the intervention of space-time anomalies, such as those attributed to the Bermuda Triangle. Some believe that the crew encountered some kind of sea ghost or curse, forcing them to leave the ship in a panic. There is a belief that the ship was cursed, for it had suffered several misfortunes prior to this incident, including the death of the first captain. These stories give the Maria Celeste an ominous aura, making it not just a ship, but the embodiment of the sea abyss, capable of absorbing without a trace. The story of the Maria Celeste has become the archetype of the ghost ship in maritime folklore. It has inspired numerous works of fiction, short stories, and films, often offering supernatural explanations, ranging from sea spirits to curses and mysterious portals leading to other dimensions. Sailors talk about the special energy around such vessels, as if they bear the seal of an unresolved mystery and eternal longing for lost souls. Even today, Maria Celeste is synonymous with an unsolvable mystery and a source of eerie tales for sailors around the world. What really caused 10 people to leave a perfectly serviceable ship? Why didn't they take their personal belongings and valuables with them? Why was there no trace of their subsequent fate? What was the reason for the sudden end of life on board, leaving only a half-eaten breakfast and a silent ship forever drifting in an ocean of mystery, whispering its unsolved mystery to anyone who dared look at its empty decks? The disappearance of the Noé Spanish Legion, 2nd century AD. The Noé Spanish Legion, Legio IX Hispana, was one of the oldest and most famous formations of the Roman Empire. Established during the Republic, it served under the command of Julius Caesar in the Gallic Wars, fought in battles in Spain and the Balkans, and then was transferred to Britain to strengthen Roman control over the island, in particular, to suppress uprisings and build defensive structures. This legion was a symbol of Roman military might, discipline, and invincibility. His soldiers were veterans of many campaigns, trained in the harsh training of the Roman army, and his banners fluttered over battlefields across the empire, bringing terror to Rome's enemies. The legion was essentially a mobile fortress made up of several thousand seasoned warriors, engineers, builders, and administrators capable of performing any task, from large-scale battles to building cities. The last reliable mention of the Noé Legion dates back to 108 AD, when it was garrisoned in Britain, presumably in the fortress of Eboracum, modern York. After this date, the legion simply disappears from Roman records. No reports of its disbandment, transfer to another province, or, most strangely, its destruction in battle. The huge combat unit, which numbered several thousand well-trained and armed soldiers, seemed to have sunk into oblivion. For an empire as powerful as Rome, the loss of an entire legion would be a disaster that requires an official explanation and chronicle. But there is no such thing. The absence of any trace, be it mass graves or evidence of captivity, and the complete silence of official Roman documents, make this loss one of the greatest military mysteries of antiquity, leaving only a gaping hole in history. The most popular theory suggests that the Legion was completely destroyed during one of the major British revolts. Tribes in northern Britain, possibly the Picts, who were known for their ferocity and ability to wage guerrilla warfare in remote forests and mountains. At this time, the north of Britain was a wild and dangerous place for the Romans. However, the lack of archaeological evidence of this catastrophe, such as mass graves of legionnaires or their equipment, remains a problem. Skeptics point out that even with a complete defeat, there should have been at least some traces left. Another version says that the legion could have been transferred to the eastern borders of the empire, where it could have died in the war with the Parthians or other enemies, but there are no records of this either, which is strange for such an important relocation. It is possible that the legion was disbanded and its veterans were resettled, but this is also not supported by documents, which is unusual for a Roman bureaucracy. Alternative theories range from the exotic to the downright fantastic. Some believe that the legion may have fallen victim to some unprecedented natural cataclysm that engulfed them completely. For example, a giant landslide or a volcanic eruption, about which no data has been preserved. Others suggest that the soldiers may have encountered some non-human forces or creatures that lived in the wilds of Britain, or even been abducted by an extraterrestrial civilization. There are also versions of mass desertion or defection to the enemy. But this would be unthinkable for such a disciplined legion and would inevitably leave traces in the form of traitors using Roman weapons. Legends of cursed legions doomed to wander forever between worlds also exist in folklore, giving this mystery a sinister connotation and hinting that their disappearance was not just physical, but also metaphysical. In British folklore, there are legends of lost legionnaires, wandering ghosts that appear in the misty wastelands of the north, hinting at their tragic fate. These legends often link their disappearance to ancient Druid magic or the wrath of local gods who rebelled against the Roman invasion, swallowing up the invaders without a trace. In some stories, it is said that the legion entered a portal or dimensional rift that opened in the wildlands and was transported to another dimension, leaving behind only an echo of its former greatness. Where did the nigh Spanish legion really go? Why did the Roman Empire leave no record of his fate? Was his death so shameful or mystical that it was deliberately erased from history? What force could devour several thousand elite warriors without a single cry or a single trace, leaving behind only silent questions and the ghost of a once powerful legion, forever wandering through the pages of unsolved mysteries? Loss of 3,000 soldiers of the Emperor Cambyses II, 524 BC. Persica Imperia, the Achaemenid Persian Empire under the leadership of Cambyses Cyrus II, the son of Cyrus the Great, the founder of the empire, was one of the great powers of the ancient world, stretching from the Mediterranean Sea to India. Cambyses, continuing his father's conquests, successfully conquered Egypt, which was a colossal military achievement, establishing the rule of Persia over the entire Middle East. His army numbered hundreds of thousands of warriors, including elite immortals, and was known for its organization, power, and ability to conduct large-scale campaigns in the most remote and inhospitable lands. The expedition to the desert was motivated not only by the desire for complete control of the conquered territories and the elimination of potential pockets of resistance or mystical influence, but also by the emperor's personal anger at the prophecy that predicted his failure. In 524 BC, Cambyses, angered by the prophecy of the oracle of Amun in the oasis of Siwa, which predicted his failure, sent an army of 50,000 to destroy him. The trek led into the heart of Egypt's western desert, one of the most inhospitable areas on the planet. Herodotus, an ancient Greek historian, describes how the army reached the oasis of Kargan, then moved on. But after a 7-day march, suddenly, the south wind arose, unusually strong, and brought with it huge masses of sand, which completely covered the army, so it disappeared. Since then, no trace of this vast army, no bodies, no weapons, no equipment, not even animal bones, has ever been found. 50,000 people seem to melt into the endless sands. This is not just the loss of an army, It is the complete disappearance of a colossal military force, which it would seem should have left at least some material evidence behind. Modern historians and archaeologists are skeptical about the literal reading of Herodotus' story. One leading theory suggests that Herodotus may have exaggerated the scale of the army or the disaster itself, perhaps based on hearsay or later retellings. The army might not be completely engulfed in the sand, but defeated by local tribes, such as oasis warriors or nomads who knew the desert well and could ambush the thirsty and hungry Persians. Or the army might suffer from starvation and thirst, lose its way, and gradually die out. And the story of the sandstorm was only a dramatic cover for a failed military campaign designed to hide a shameful defeat or degradation. However, the complete absence of any traces of such a huge mass of people and equipment remains inexplicable even in these scenarios, requiring implausibly complete destruction without a trace. More mystical versions say that the army was the victim of an ancient curse or the wrath of the gods, angry at the attempt to destroy the Oracle of Amun. The desert might not just be a physical obstacle, but a place steeped in ancient magic or energy that engulfed the invaders like a living thing. There are even speculations about extraterrestrial intervention that erased the army from reality or transferred it to another dimension. Legends speak of the walking dead, who now guard the lost treasures of Cambyses in the depths of the sands, and the mirages that show only the sinister phantoms of dead warriors, doomed to wander forever in the sand. Some believe that this place has become a kind of anomalous zone, where time and space are distorted. Local Bedouin tribes and ancient Egyptian traditions speak of the desert as a living, dangerous creature that can devour people who disturb its peace. Tales of wandering souls and mirages that lure travelers into deadly traps add to the mystical aura surrounding the story. In Egyptian folklore, there are stories of powerful priests and gods who can summon the forces of nature to protect sacred sites, which may be an echo of this tragedy. Where did the 50,000 soldiers of the Persian army actually go? Is it really possible for a sandstorm to completely hide such a large group of people without a single trace? Why have archaeological searches failed after thousands of years? What secret lies hidden in the silent sands of the Egyptian desert, which harbors one of the greatest military disappearances in history, leading us to question the true power of ancient curses and the nature of the earth itself? The disappearance of the Harappan civilization, circa 1900 BCE. The Indus Valley Civilization, or Harappan civilization, flourished between 2500 and 1900 BCE, covering vast areas of present-day Pakistan and northwestern India. It was one of the three great early civilizations of the Old World, along with ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, but in many ways ahead of them in terms of urban planning and social organization. Cities such as Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa had a striking urban layout: straight streets, a well-developed water and sewer system, public baths, granaries, and an amazing standardization of brick and scale construction. This indicates a highly organized society, a well-developed bureaucracy, and surprisingly, the absence of obvious signs of wars and social stratification characteristic of other ancient civilizations. Their unencrypted writing, elegant seals with images of animals and deities, as well as refined crafts testified to a rich culture, deep knowledge, and peaceful coexistence, which makes them a unique phenomenon in the history of mankind. Around 1900 BC, this vast and seemingly stable civilization suddenly declined and eventually disappeared. Majestic cities were abandoned, trade routes ceased, and standardized artifacts were no longer produced. It wasn't the abrupt destruction of an invasion or disaster, but rather a slow but inexplicable decline, as if millions of people had simply left their homes and disappeared into history, leaving only silent ruins behind. There is no evidence of mass slaughter or devastating wars that could explain such a large-scale collapse. All that remains are silent ruins that keep the secret of their creators, and still unencrypted inscriptions that could contain a clue. This disappearance of one of the most extensive ancient civilizations, without clear reasons, remains one of the greatest mysteries of archaeology. Conventional scientific theories focus on environmental change, One of the leading hypotheses is climate change, particularly drought, which could have led to a reduction in monsoon rains, on which agriculture, vital for maintaining a huge population, depended. Another important theory is a change in the course of rivers, especially the Ghagra Hakra, possibly ancient Saraswati, which could have left cities without water and disrupted irrigation systems. It also addresses epidemics, overpopulation, and resource depletion that could undermine the resilience of societies. Some scientists suggest that there was a series of small but cumulative events that gradually led to degradation and displacement of the population. However, all of these factors may have contributed to the decline, but none of them explains the complete and relatively rapid disappearance of an entire civilization that seemed perfectly adapted to its environment and showed amazing resilience. Some more radical theories suggest that Harappa may have been the victim of an unknown natural disaster, such as a major earthquake or tsunami, if you consider coastal cities, or even a series of catastrophic floods that could have destroyed infrastructure. There is also speculation about the possible use of an ancient, unknown weapon that could lead to radioactive contamination or other unexplained consequences, although there is no direct evidence of this and it borders on science fiction. Some esoteric theories attribute the disappearance of Harappa to its unique, peaceful nature and claim that its inhabitants may have reached such a level of spiritual development that they moved to another state or dimension, leaving the physical world behind. These versions, although they have no scientific evidence, give the mystery a mystical connotation. Although there are no direct myths about the death of the Harappan civilization, possibly due to the loss of their language and oral traditions, Indian Vedas written later mention great catastrophes and river changes that may have been echoes of the events that led to the decline of Harappa. There is also folklore about water spirits who could either support or destroy ancient cities, hinting at the power of nature that could play a fatal role in their fate. Local lore also often speaks of the wrath of the gods, or changing the order of things, as the reason for the disappearance of great ancient settlements. What really caused the disappearance of the Harappan civilizations? Why didn't its inhabitants leave any direct evidence of their deaths that would be understandable to posterity? What secrets might have been encoded in their hitherto unencrypted script, which may hold the keys to their disappearance? And can we learn from this great but forgotten civilization that has so abruptly sunk into the abyss of history, leaving only silent ruins to whisper its unsolved mystery? Whispers of ancient mechanisms, mysterious artifacts, and unexplained technologies. Among the archaeological finds, there are sometimes items that don't seem to fit in with their era, demonstrating knowledge and technology that should have appeared much later. These anachronisms challenge our understanding of historical development and raise questions about lost civilizations or even unearthly influences, as if the shadows of great inventors of the past whispered to us about forgotten wonders. Baghdad Battery, 250 BC, 250 AD. The Baghdad Battery is a group of artifacts discovered in 1938 by German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig at Kujut Rabu, near Baghdad, Iraq. They consist of an earthenware jug about 13 centimeters high, containing a copper cylinder, inside of which was an iron rod. The jar was sealed with bitumen. Although the original purpose of these objects was unknown, Koenig and later other researchers, including the American electrochemist Willard Gray, suggested that it could be an ancient galvanic device, a kind of electric battery. Experiments with replicas have shown that when filled with an acidic solution, such as grape juice or vinegar, such devices can generate about 1.1 volts. If this hypothesis is correct, then the artifact is evidence that Mesopotamians may have had knowledge of electricity long before it was discovered by Europeans in the 18th century, which upends our understanding of the technological progress of ancient civilizations. The main secret of the Baghdad Battery is its true purpose. If it really was a battery, how was it used, and why is there no mention of such an important technology in the written sources of that time? Why would the ancient people need electricity if there were no obvious devices that it could power? The lack of other similar finds in the same region or evidence of widespread use of electricity makes it an isolated and mysterious artifact, as if this knowledge was unique, forgotten, or used for some specific, perhaps secret purposes accessible only to a narrow circle of initiates. This single artifact calls into question the entire timeline of technological development. Most archaeologists and historians believe that these vessels could have been used to store sacred scrolls. A copper cylinder would have protected them from pests, as containers for transporting valuable materials, or as part of some ritual objects where they did not perform an electrical function. The copper cylinder could serve to protect the scroll from pests. Another version is to use them as decorative elements or for storing cosmetics and ointments. The lack of clear evidence that the device ever produced a current in the context of its detection and its isolated nature undermines the idea of widespread ancient electrical engineering. Many scientists believe that the similarity to the battery is a pure coincidence. Proponents of the idea of ancient technology claim that the Baghdad battery was indeed a source of electricity. They suggest that the current could be used for electroplating, coating objects with a thin layer of gold, silver, or other metals, which explains the mysterious gilding of some ancient artifacts without using large volumes of precious metals. Medical purposes, for example, for pain relief or treatment of nervous disorders, using electric shock, similar to modern physiotherapy devices. Lighting, although this would require connecting to many such batteries to create enough voltage for simple lamps. Or ritual purposes, to animate statues, create miraculous light or sound effects in temples that could be attributed to divine power, thereby strengthening the faith and authority of priests. These theories suggest that ancient civilizations possessed much more advanced knowledge than we think, but that this knowledge was lost, hidden, or deliberately destroyed. Although there are no direct myths about electrical devices in Mesopotamia, there are legends in various ancient cultures about magic lamps, lights without fire, or divine light that appeared in temples without visible sources. Perhaps some of these stories were veiled descriptions of technologies like the Baghdad battery that seem supernatural to the unenlightened masses. In ancient texts, there are sometimes descriptions of effects that could be explained by the use of electricity, which supports the mystical version. Was the Baghdad battery really a battery? If so, what was this electricity used for? Why didn't this technology become widespread and leave more traces, disappearing from historical memory for millennia? Is it evidence of lost ancient knowledge that could transform our understanding of the history of technology? Or is it just a random coincidence of shapes that has given rise to one of the most intriguing archaeological mysteries? Antikythera mechanism, circa 150–100 BC. Antikythera. The mechanism was discovered in 1901 by Greek sponge catchers on a sunken Roman ship off the coast of Antikythera Island. At first, it was mistaken for a piece of petrified rock or ordinary debris. However, when it was cleaned and examined, it became clear that it was an incredibly complex artifact consisting of many bronze gears, discs, and dials, more than 30 of which were discovered. Its purpose, calculating astronomical positions and predicting celestial phenomena, made it the most complex known device from the ancient world. Its discovery caused a shock in the scientific community, as its complexity far exceeded all known technologies of the time, and even modern engineers were amazed by its mechanics. This is not just a watch or compass, but an analog computer that can simulate the movements of the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, predict eclipses, and determine the dates of religious holidays and Olympic Games. The main mystery of the Antikythera mechanism is its synchronism. Its complexity and precision of assembly, including a differential transmission that was not known in Europe until the 14th century AD, and miniature gears made with amazing precision, seem impossible for the 2nd century BC. The creation of such a device required a deep knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and metalworking, as well as precision engineering skills that, as it was believed, they appeared much later. Who created this device? Was it a single copy, the ingenious creation of an unknown master, perhaps Archimedes or Posidonius, or evidence of the existence of a whole tradition of creating such complex machines, which was lost? The absence of other similar devices from that period and the complete silence of ancient sources about their production or use causes deep confusion, as if this knowledge was suddenly acquired and then completely lost. Conventional theory holds that the mechanism was created by great Greek scholars such as Archimedes or Posidonius, perhaps in the Library of Alexandria or one of the advanced centers of knowledge such as Rhodes. It could be used for teaching astronomy, navigation, or astrological purposes. Its uniqueness is explained by the fact that it may have been one of the few surviving devices. Most of these complex devices were probably made of wood and did not survive. Or it was a prototype that was not widely used due to the complexity of manufacturing, high cost, or lack of demand. Perhaps such devices were the prerogative of the elite and were kept secret. Alternative theories suggest that the mechanism could have been created using knowledge passed down from lost highly advanced civilizations, such as Atlantis, that possessed more advanced technologies. Some speculations go even further, claiming that it could have been an artifact created using extraterrestrial technology, or that its creator gained knowledge from the future or another dimension, which explains its anomalous complexity. Its very complexity and uniqueness give rise to the idea that the ancient Greeks may have possessed some secret or forgotten sciences, which were then lost in the Dark Ages, when most of the ancient knowledge sank into oblivion. Although there are no specific legends about the mechanism itself, ancient Greek mythology often mentions automata and miraculous mechanisms created by gods or ingenious craftsmen, such as Hephaestus, the blacksmith god. These myths may have been a veiled reflection of the existence of real, but extremely rare and complex mechanical devices that seem miraculous to ordinary people and were attributed to divine intervention. The story of Daedalus, who created flying machines, also points to the existence of ideas about complex machines. Who was the true creator of the Antikythera mechanism? Why did such a complex technology not get further development and was lost for 1,500 years, leaving a huge technological gap? What other wonders of ancient engineering might have been hidden beneath the waters of the seas or buried underground, waiting to be discovered to forever change our understanding of the technological level of ancient civilizations and their forgotten achievements? Rukopis Voynich's manuscript, 15th century. Rukopis. The Voynich manuscript is one of the most famous and elusive objects in the world of cryptography and history. It is named after the Polish bookseller Wilfrid Voynich, who purchased it in 1912. The manuscript consists of 240 parchment pages written in an unknown language, using an unknown alphabet that does not resemble any known writing system. In addition to the text, the book is replete with hundreds of strange, detailed illustrations, plants that don't match any known species, astronomical diagrams with unusual constellations and cosmic objects, alchemical processes depicted in a surreal manner, and possibly anatomical or biological images, often featuring nude women in unusual pools and intricate pipelines. Its uniqueness, utter incomprehensibility, and abundance of mysterious images instantly attracted the attention of scientists, cryptographers, historians, and mystery lovers around the world, turning it into a symbol of unresolved mystery. The main secret of the Voynich manuscript is that no cryptographer, linguist, or scientist in hundreds of years has been able to decipher its language or understand its contents. Even the most advanced methods of text analysis, including computer algorithms and artificial intelligence, have failed to identify patterns inherent in human languages, although statistics on the distribution of characters indicate that this is not a random set of characters, but structured text. What is this language? Is this a real but lost language, a complex cipher, a hoax designed to deceive, or is it an attempt to encrypt some lost, possibly dangerous or revolutionary knowledge? The complete integrity of the manuscript makes it an ominous symbol of the unsolved secrets of the past, as if the book scoffs at all attempts to reveal its truth. The most common versions assume that the manuscript is a cipher, possibly multi-layered, polyalphabetic, or using zeros, which would make it extremely difficult to decrypt without a key, created to hide information. Another theory is artificial language, for example, a philosophical language or code, created for secret purposes or for fixing unique scientific, philosophical concepts that could not be expressed in a publicly available language. It also hypothesizes a hoax, that the manuscript is a fake created for sale, or a meaningless book, the purpose of which is simply to confuse the reader or distract attention. Some researchers suggest that it could have been a pharmaceutical reference book with images of non-existent plants, perhaps from other regions or fantastic ones, or an alchemical treatise encrypted to preserve the secrecy of recipes and processes that could be dangerous or valuable. Bolder theories claim that the manuscript contains lost knowledge of an ancient civilization that was passed down through the ages and encrypted for preservation, or that it was a message from another dimension or from extraterrestrial beings who tried to make contact with humanity, but their language was incomprehensible. Illustrations of unknown. Plants give rise to the idea that the author had access to flora that no longer exists on Earth, or to plants that grow in another world or reality, which gives the manuscript a truly fantastic character. There is even a suggestion that it may be a crazy text written by a person with a mental disorder, or a text created under the influence of psychoactive substances, which would explain its surreal nature. Some occultists believe that it is a grimoire containing magical spells or secrets that are not intended for human understanding. Rukopis, the Voynich manuscript, is not surrounded by ancient myths in the classical sense, but has itself become an object of modern myth-making and legend. It is associated with secret societies, such as the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, alchemists, occultists, and even alien civilizations that may have tried to pass on their knowledge to humanity. Its mystery attracts those who believe in the hidden history of the world and the existence of secret knowledge accessible only to a select few. Every year, new transcripts appear, which, however, quickly turn out to be untenable, only increasing the mystical aura around the book. What is the true content of the Voynich manuscript? Who was its author, and for whom was it intended? Will humanity ever be able to solve its mystery? Or is it an ominous reminder that some of the secrets of the past, hidden in symbols and drawings, will forever remain unfathomable, continuing to silently challenge our intellectual abilities and push us to search for answers beyond our usual understanding? Crystal skulls, age unknown, but disputed. Crystal skulls are a group of artifacts in the shape of human skulls, carved from solid pieces of clear or translucent quartz, rock crystal. They became widely known in the 20th century when some of them were presented to the public as authentic artifacts of ancient Mesoamerican cultures, civilizations, Mayans, Aztecs, or even more ancient cultures. The most famous of these is the Skull of Destiny, or the Mitchell Hedges skull, allegedly found in 1924 in the Mayan ruins of Lubantun, in Belize. This skull, made of a single piece of quartz with a movable lower jaw, impresses with its precision and smoothness, as well as claims about the presence of mystical properties, the ability to telepathy, healing, prophecy, and even record information. They were considered symbols of ancient wisdom, powerful artifacts of power, and even portals to other worlds that could store ancient knowledge and pass it on to the chosen ones. The main mystery of crystal skulls is their true origin and manufacturing methods. It is claimed that they were created by ancient civilizations that did not possess the tools necessary to process such a hard material as quartz with such precision. They would have required diamond abrasives and rotating polishing machines, which the ancient Indians are not thought to have had. According to calculations, creating such a skull by hand without modern tools would take hundreds of years of painstaking work. The lack of records of such artifacts in ancient texts and the unclear circumstances of their discovery raised serious doubts about their authenticity. Most of them appeared on the market of antiques in the 19th century, when the demand for mysterious ancient artifacts was very high. Most modern scientific studies conducted by the British Museum and the Smithsonian Institution show that many of the famous crystal skulls, including the Skull of Destiny, were made in the 19th century or later. Research reveals traces of modern grinding wheels and abrasives, typical of jewelry workshops in Europe of the 19th century. This means that most of the ancient crystal skulls are elaborate forgery designed to deceive collectors and the public during the heyday of interest in archaeology and the occult. In the absence of archaeologically documented finds of authentic ancient crystal skulls, the scientific community is leaning towards the hoax version, albeit a very convincing one. Despite scientific evidence of forgeries, proponents of mystical versions continue to believe in their ancient origin. They suggest that the skulls may have been created using lost ancient technologies that we have no idea about, perhaps based on sound vibrations or special types of energy that can process the stone. Some theories link them to extraterrestrial civilizations that may have left them on Earth or passed on knowledge to ancient peoples. Native American shamans and esotericists believe in their magical properties, claiming that the skulls are databanks of ancient knowledge that can be activated or read through meditation. They are considered one of the 13 or 12.1 true skulls that, when brought together, will reveal a great secret or save the world. Although there are no direct ancient traditions specifically describing crystal skulls, Mesoamericansk skull cults are widespread in Mesoamerican culture, culto Charapa, and ideas about the skull as a symbol of life, death, and rebirth. These myths could be interpreted as the basis for the creation of modern legends about crystal skulls. Modern legends say that these skulls are relics of ancient priests, holding the keys to the universe and prophecies about the future. Are there any authentic ancient crystal skulls whose origin and manufacturing methods remain a mystery, despite all the evidence of forgeries? If not, why do so many people continue to believe in their mystical powers? What is the true nature of these artifacts' simple forgeries, or do they really contain some unsolved force that continues to influence human consciousness and seek answers beyond the rational? Dendersky light device, ancient Egypt. The Dendera light fixture is a relief found in the crypts of the Temple of Hathor in Dendera, Egypt, dating from the Ptolemaic period, circa 300 BC. These images carved into the walls, especially in the underground crypt, seem unusually familiar to the modern eye, accustomed to electrical technology. They show large, pear-shaped objects connected to something like cables that lead to a power source or some kind of mechanism. Inside these pears wriggles something resembling a snake or an incandescent filament. These reliefs, located in places where daylight did not reach, caused a heated debate among Egyptologists and supporters of alternative theories that suggest that the ancient Egyptians may have had knowledge of electric lighting thousands of years before its official invention. The main secret of Dendera reliefs is their interpretation. Could these images be evidence of the use of electricity in ancient Egypt? Or are they purely symbolic or religious concepts? If they were electric lamps, how were they made? And why is there no other archaeological evidence of their use? Neither the lamps themselves, nor generators, nor wires. The lack of explicit technical descriptions or other artifacts that support such advanced technology makes them unique and mysterious. This calls into question the generally accepted chronology of technological development and raises the question of what Egyptologists may have missed or underestimated in ancient knowledge. Traditional Egyptological interpretations claim that the reliefs have symbolic and religious significance. The pear-shaped objects are interpreted as a lotus, a symbol of creation and rebirth, or as a celestial disk, and the snake inside is interpreted as the god Hemis, the embodiment of the life force or atmosphere emerging from the lotus. The cable can be a lotus stalk, and the power source can be Stalb, a jed pillar, a symbol of stability, or the hieroglyph, Ankh, a symbol of life. The scene as a whole, according to Egyptologists, is a mythological representation of the process of creation and divine rebirth associated with the cult of Hathor. The absence of any archaeological evidence supporting the existence of ancient Egyptian electrical devices reinforces this traditional view. Proponents of alternative theories, especially the so-called forbidden archaeology or paleocontact, see the denderites as the denderites. Reliefs prove the existence of ancient electric lamps. They point out that the temples and tombs of ancient Egypt often did not have traces of soot from torches, which in their opinion indicates the use of another light source, possibly electric. They believe that the images on the walls are some kind of diagram or instruction manual for these devices. Some even suggest that this knowledge may have been passed on to the Egyptians by extraterrestrial civilizations that visited Earth in ancient times. This hypothesis challenges not only our understanding of ancient technology, but also the very origin of human knowledge. Ancient Egyptian mythology is replete with stories of gods wielding incredible powers, including the ability to create light and life. The legends about Ra, the sun god, and his power, about the light emanating from divine entities, could be a metaphorical reflection of the use of certain technological devices that were perceived as a divine miracle. It is possible that these reliefs were part of the secret priestly knowledge, which was kept in the strictest secrecy and passed on only to a select few, hence the lack of broader references. Are the Dendera reliefs just an elaborate metaphor? Or do they really hide the key to the lost technologies of ancient Egypt? Why do these images so strongly resemble modern electrical appliances? Could the ancient Egyptians really have possessed knowledge that we thought impossible for their time? And what is the true nature of the light in these mysterious crypts that continues to excite the minds of researchers and push them to new bold hypotheses? Silent ruins, unexplained structures in abandoned cities. There are monumental structures and entire cities scattered around the world, whose scale, accuracy of construction, or construction methods remain a mystery. Some of them were abandoned for no apparent reason. Others were built using technologies that were seemingly absent in that era, as if the stones themselves hold the whispers of forgotten architects and vanished civilizations. Göbekli Nemrut Dağ, 1st century BC. Nemrut Dağ is a grandiose mountaintop archaeological site in southeastern Turkey, built in the 1st century BC by the Commagene king Antiochus Theos of Commagene. This place, rising 2,134 meters above sea level, is a giant mound of fine rubble, surrounded by 3 terraces with huge statues of gods and kings carved out of stone. The statues reach 9-10 meters in height and depict Zeus Oromasdes, Apollo Mithras, Hercules Veratragna, Tyche, and Antiochus himself. The statues originally had bodies, but now only the heads remain, which are mysteriously separated from them and lie at the foot. This place was not just a tomb or sanctuary, but a grand memorial complex that was supposed to perpetuate the greatness of King Antiochus and his divine origin. It is a unique synthesis of Hellenistic and Persian cultures, reflecting the ambition and syncretism of the time. The main secret of Nemrut Dağ is the purpose of the largest mound. It is believed that the tomb of King Antiochus is located under it, but despite numerous studies and attempts, it has not yet been found. The technology of building such a giant mound on top of a mountain and carving colossal statues, as well as their installation at such a height, raise questions about the methods and organization of labor of ancient builders. In addition, it remains a mystery why the heads of the statues were separated from the bodies. Was it the result of an earthquake, vandalism, or a deliberate ritual act involving a change of cult or era? The silent heads that gaze out over the vast expanses keep their secret, as if waiting for someone to understand their message. Traditional hypotheses suggest that the severing of heads could be the result of powerful earthquakes that often occur in this seismically active region. Wind erosion and weather conditions may also have contributed to the destruction. As for the tomb, it is believed that it is either very deeply hidden under the mound, or was looted in ancient times and its traces are lost, or it was so cleverly disguised that it still could not be found. Despite modern methods, gyrodarnagu, of ground-penetrating radar scanning, perhaps the mound was intended as a symbolic tomb, and the true resting place of the king is located in another less visible place. Some unconventional theories offer more mystical explanations. Separating the heads may be a ritual act or symbolic overthrow of gods and kings after Antiochus' death to prevent their return or symbolically close the era of his reign. Perhaps it was due to some ancient curse that struck the place after it was desecrated. There is also speculation about hidden tunnels and secret chambers that lead to the tomb, possibly protected by elaborate traps or mystical powers. Some enthusiasts even associate the mystery with extraterrestrial civilizations that could have participated in the creation of such a grandiose and difficult-to-explain structure. Local lore and legends passed down from generation to generation often tell of sleeping gods or stone giants who guard the secrets of the mountain. There are stories of treasures hidden inside the mound and curses being cast on those who try to find them. These traditions give the place an aura of sacredness and danger, highlighting its mysterious nature and deep connection to ancient beliefs. What is really hidden under the Nemrut Dağ mound? Why were the heads of the statues cut off from the bodies? What are the secrets of the ancient Commagene kings held by this mountain that rises above the plain? And when will the mystery of its silent stone giants be solved, which continue to look at the world through the veil of centuries, waiting for their full disclosure? Stone spheres of Costa Rica, 200 BC, 1500 AD. The stone spheres of Costa Rica are hundreds of petrospheres of various sizes, ranging from a few centimeters to 2.5 meters in diameter, some of which weigh more than 16 tons. They were discovered in the 1930s while clearing jungle for banana plantations on the Decas Plain in southwestern Costa Rica. These spheres are perfectly round, crafted with incredible precision from gabbro, granite, and granodiorite, very hard igneous rocks. Most of them were found in groups aligned in lines, triangles, or squares, indicating their deliberate placement. Their creators are considered to be the pre-Columbian Decas culture, which existed from 200 BC to 1500 AD. These spheres had no practical use, which makes their creation even more mysterious and underscores their potential sacred or astronomical significance. The main mystery of the stone spheres is how and why they were created. The lack of iron tools or advanced stone processing technologies among the ancient inhabitants of Costa Rica is puzzling. How were they able to achieve such a perfect spherical shape, which is achieved only by using the most complex geometric calculations and high-precision processing methods? What was their true purpose? Were they astronomical instruments, navigation markers, status symbols, ritual objects, or part of some giant, now-forgotten calendar or map? Most of the spheres were displaced from their original locations when they were discovered, making it difficult to study their original locations and functions. Traditional hypotheses suggest that the spheres were created by grinding and polishing stones using abrasive materials such as sand and water with the help of other stones. This would be an extremely time-consuming process, but theoretically possible. It is believed that the spheres could have been used to mark the boundaries of tribal territories for orientation in space, as some pointers, or as symbols of power and wealth for local leaders. Their arrangement in groups could be related to astronomical observations or calendar cycles, indicating the solstice or equinox points. However, these theories do not explain the incredible accuracy of their shape and why it was necessary to spend so much effort on creating such objects without obvious practical benefits. Some unconventional theories suggest that the spheres may have been created using lost technologies or even sound waves that can soften the stone. There are versions linking them to extraterrestrial civilizations that could have left these spheres as marks or artifacts or passed on the ancient knowledge to create them. There are also ideas that the spheres are part of the ancient energy network of the Earth or a kind of accumulator of energy located in places with special geomagnetic activity, and their ideal shape is necessary for this function. Local Native American legends often associate the spheres with a divine origin. Some myths say that the spheres were given by the gods or created by powerful deities. Other legends claim that these are the fossil eggs of giant birds, or that they are rolling balls that were once used in the giant game of the gods, or that they mark the burial sites of great leaders and their treasures. These traditions give the spheres a mystical, sacred meaning that goes beyond mere stone. Who created these perfectly round stone spheres, and for what purpose? How could the ancient people achieve such precision in processing hard stone without modern tools? What are the secrets of these silent stone balls scattered through the jungles of Costa Rica? And will they ever reveal their true function? Or will they forever remain a reminder of the mysterious knowledge and skills of long-vanished civilizations? Karnak megaliths, 4500 to 2500 BC. The Karnak megaliths, located in Brittany, France, represent one of the largest and most mysterious concentrations of prehistoric megalithic sites in the world. These are thousands of menhirs, freestanding stones, dolmens, stone tombs, and cromlechs, stone circles, set up over a vast area between 4500 and 2500 BC. The most famous part is the aligned rows of menhirs stretching for several kilometers, giving the impression of a giant, frozen army of stones. Some of the stones reach huge sizes, up to 20 meters in height and weighing hundreds of tons. The scale and complexity of these structures, as well as their precise alignment, are striking and indicate a highly organized society that possess deep astronomical knowledge and abilities for monumental construction. The main secret of Karnak lies in their purpose and methods of construction. How did the ancient people, who did not have wheels, develop tools and draft animals in the volume that would allow such colossal stones to be moved? Manage to install thousands of menhirs and dolmens with such amazing accuracy? Why were so many titanic efforts made? Were these rows astronomical observatories, complex calendars, religious sanctuaries, burial sites, or territorial markers? The lack of written sources and clear explanations from the creators leaves this structure shrouded in mystery, as if the stones silently keep their secrets. Traditional archaeological theories suggest that the Karnak megaliths were used for religious or ritual purposes, possibly related to ancestral worship, fertility, or the solar and lunar cycles. Their alignment indicates that they were used as primitive astronomical calendars or observatories that helped ancient farmers determine the time of sowing and harvesting. As for their construction methods, it is believed that they used primitive levers, wooden rollers, ramps, and a huge amount of manpower to move and install the stones. This process would be incredibly time-consuming and require the coordination of a large number of people, which indicates a developed social structure. Some unconventional theories offer more extravagant explanations. There are suggestions that menhirs and dolmens are part of the global energy network of the Earth, located on the ley lines, and serve to store or transmit energy. Other theories link them to extraterrestrial civilizations that may have helped build them or passed on knowledge about stone levitation. There are also hypotheses about a lost civilization that possessed advanced but now forgotten technologies that allowed them to easily move and process huge stone blocks. Some esotericists believe that stones have their own special energy, which can affect the consciousness in the surrounding space. Local Breton legends and Celtic folklore are full of stories about Karnak. According to one legend, these stones are Roman legionnaires turned to stone by the wizard Merlin or St. Cornelius. Other legends say that they are stone giants or fairies who were punished and turned into stone. There is also a belief that the stones move and dance at night, or that they hold the souls of ancient warriors. These myths give the place a powerful, mystical aura, making it not just an archaeological site, but a living testimony of ancient beliefs and secrets. What is the true purpose of the Karnak megaliths? How were the ancient people able to erect thousands of huge stones with such precision and on such a scale? What secrets of ancient ritual and astronomical knowledge do these silent stone rows, stretching for many kilometers, hold? And when will their true purpose be unraveled? Or will they forever remain a great testament to the forgotten forces and technologies of long-gone eras? Voices from oblivion, unencrypted scripts in lost languages. Among the ruins of ancient civilizations are sometimes found writings, the language of which remains incomprehensible to modern scientists. These unencrypted texts are like locked doors to the past, preserving the knowledge, myths, and history of entire peoples. They whisper about forgotten cultures that could upend our understanding of humanity, but their voices remain silent, waiting for their decoder. Festsky, the Phaistos disc, circa 1700 BC. Festsky is one of the most intriguing and mysterious artifacts in the history of archaeology, discovered by Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier in 1908 in the Minoan Palace at Festus on the island of Crete. This clay disc, about 15 centimeters in diameter, is covered on both sides with spirally arranged symbols, printed with 45 different stamps. These symbols, which represent people, animals, plants, ships, and geometric shapes, are not found in any other known written language. It was dated to about 1700 BC, the heyday of the Minoan civilization. The disc is unique not only for its writing, but also because it is one of the oldest examples of the use of typesetting, long before the invention of Gutenberg. Its beauty and perfection of execution make it a real work of art, containing an unknown message. The main secret of the Phaistos disc is its unencrypted writing. Despite decades of effort by cryptographers and linguists, the meaning of the text on the disc remains completely unclear. What do these symbols mean? Is it an alphabet, syllabic script, or pictograms? Which language does it encode? Minoan, Proto-Greek, or some completely unknown language? The absence of other similar texts written in the same way makes decryption extremely difficult. Is the disk part of some larger archive that has not yet been found? Was it a religious text, a document, a calendar, or something else entirely? Its isolation in the context of the Minoan culture, known for its highly developed linear A and B script, makes it an anomaly, as if it came from another world or time. Traditional hypotheses suggest that the Phaistos disk is a religious text, prayer, or hymn to a deity. It may have been a calendar or astronomical text marking important events or cycles. There is also a version that this is an administrative document or a trading contract, although its spiral shape and unique symbols make this unlikely. Some scientists believe that it could have been a fake artifact created in ancient times, or even a later fake. But most experts recognize its authenticity. The most serious problem with decryption is that the text size is too small. Successful language decryption usually requires hundreds or thousands of texts to identify patterns and duplicate elements. Some unconventional theories suggest that the Phaistos disk contains a message from extraterrestrial civilizations or the lost knowledge of a highly advanced civilization that preceded or existed parallel to the Minoan one. There are versions that the symbols on the disk represent musical notation, magic spells, or even instructions for building any structures. Speculation that it may be part of a global system of ancient knowledge that has been lost makes it even more mysterious. Perhaps the disk was intended to transmit information not through language, but through some form of symbolic meditation or activation of hidden forces. Local Cretan legends and ancient Greek myths, while not specifically mentioning the Phaistos disk, tell of the secret lore of Minos, king of Crete, and of a labyrinth that held great secrets. They contain hints of the wisdom of ancient civilizations that possessed unique abilities and knowledge, possibly passed down to them by the gods. These legends provide a backdrop for the disk's perception as a key to the island's long-forgotten secrets. What is actually written on the Phest disk? What secrets of the Minoan civilization does it keep? Will humanity ever be able to decipher its message? Or will this artifact forever remain a symbol of the unfathomable wisdom and secrets of antiquity, continuing to spin silently in the spiral of time, challenging all who try to solve its riddle? Linear A, Minoan civilization, 1800–1450 BC. Linear A is an undeciphered script used by the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete and some other islands of the Aegean Sea from 1800 to 1450 BC. It predated the Linear B script, which was later deciphered and turned out to be an early form of Greek. The linear letter A consists of approximately 90 syllabic characters, as well as many ideograms representing objects and concepts. It is found on clay tablets, stone vessels, seals, and other artifacts found mainly in Crete. It was a highly developed writing system, attesting to the complex administrative and economic structure of Minoan society, which was centralized around palace complexes. The main secret of the linear letter A is that it is unencrypted. Despite the best efforts of linguists and cryptographers, the language that encodes this letter remains unknown. This makes it difficult to understand the inner life, beliefs, history, and economy of the Minoan civilization. There have been attempts to correlate it with various languages, Anatolian, Semitic, Indo-European, but none of these hypotheses have been widely accepted. Unlike Linear B, which turned out to be a Greek dialect, Linear A seems to encode a completely different, now-lost language. This script is the key to understanding one of the most mysterious and peaceful ancient civilizations. But this key has not yet been found. Traditional hypotheses suggest that the linear letter A encodes a pre-Indo-European language, possibly related to ancient Lycian or Etruscan, or a completely unique Minoan language. The main problem with its decryption, in addition to the unknown language, is the limited number of available texts. Although several hundred tablets and other artifacts with this letter were found, their number is insufficient for a complete statistical analysis, which would allow identifying repeated patterns and grammatical structures. Most texts are short administrative records, inventory lists, or ritual inscriptions, which makes it difficult to identify the context. Some unconventional theories suggest that the Linear A script may be related to the Atlantean language or the language of some lost civilization that preceded Minoisum or existed parallel to the Minoans. There are also more daring versions that it may be a kind of sacred or ritual language, intended only for priests and initiates, and not for everyday use, which explains its relative rarity. There is also speculation that it may contain some prophecies or messages from another dimension, encoded in symbols. Although there are no direct myths about Linear A itself, the Minoan civilization is surrounded by an aura of mysticism, especially in the ancient Greek myths of the Labyrinth, the Minotaur, and King Minos. These myths may reflect memories of the complex palace structure and mystique of Minoan culture to later Greeks. They speak of secrets hidden under the earth and of knowledge accessible only to a select few. What is actually written on the tablets with the linear letter A? What language is hidden behind these mysterious symbols? When will the key to deciphering this letter be found? And what will we learn about the great Minoan civilization that left us this silent message from the depths of time, which continues to challenge linguists and historians and beckon with the promise of revealing its forgotten secrets? Indus Valley Script, Harappan Civilization, 2500 to 1900 BCE. Indus Valley Script, or Harappan script, is a system of symbols found on thousands of seals, ceramics, bronze tablets, and other artifacts of the Harappan civilization that flourished between 2500 and 1900 BCE in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India, Western India. This writing system consists of approximately 400-600 different characters, indicating that it was probably logosyllabic system, a combination of syllabic signs and ideograms. Symbols often depict animals, unicorns, tigers, human figures, and abstract signs. The findings indicate that writing was used for administrative, commercial, and possibly religious purposes. Its existence indicates a high degree of organization and development of this ancient civilization. The main secret of Indus Valley writing is its complete lack of deciphering. Despite decades of intensive research and the use of computer technology, no researcher has been able to decipher this language convincingly or understand the content of the inscriptions. What is this language? It can be Dravidian, Indo-European, or completely unique with no known descendants. Short texts, most inscriptions consist of only a few characters, and the absence of bilingual inscriptions, analogs of the Rosetta Stone, make the task of decryption incredibly difficult. The lack of any connection to known languages or writing systems reinforces the sense that this message is from a completely different, now lost world, whose voices are forever trapped in these silent symbols. Traditional hypotheses offer several approaches to decryption. Many linguists suggest that the Indus Valley written language is Proto-Dravidian or closely related to the modern Dravidian languages of South India. Other researchers have linked it to Munda languages or even Indo-European languages, but these versions are less common. Most scholars agree that it was a logosyllabic system used to record administrative and trade data on seals. The main obstacles to decryption are the brevity of text and the lack of context. We don't know what exactly these texts are about, which makes it difficult to identify grammatical structures and symbol meanings. Some unconventional theories suggest that the Indus Valley script may contain symbols that convey ideas rather than sounds, making it a kind of universal symbol language. There are versions that it could be a sacred language used only for religious purposes, or that it contains astronomical knowledge or magical formulas. There are even more daring speculations linking this script with messages from extraterrestrial civilizations, or with the lost knowledge of ancient, highly developed cultures that somehow influenced the Harappan civilization. In Indian mythology and ancient texts, such as the Vedas, there is no direct mention of the Indus Valley script, as it disappeared before their appearance. However, there are many legends about ancient sages, rishis, who possessed secret knowledge and were able to communicate with the gods in the language of the gods. Sanskrit, which according to some assumptions could have its roots in older, lost scripts. These myths provide a background for the search for the key to ancient texts that could reveal the true nature of the universe. What is really hidden behind the Indus Valley writing symbols? What language was the language of this great but mysterious civilization? Will humanity ever be able to read these silent messages left thousands of years ago? Or will they forever remain reminders of the limits of our understanding of history and the lost voices of ancient peoples whose secrets remain trapped in stone and clay? Rongo Rongo, Easter Island, before the Washington 9th centuries. Rongo Rongo is a hieroglyphic writing system discovered on Easter Island, Rapa Nui, in the 19th century. It is carved on wooden tablets and objects that were found on the island. The uniqueness of this script lies in its form. The characters are arranged in lines that are read alternately, one line from left to right, the next from right to left, the so-called bustropheton. Symbols are stylized images of people, animals, plants, and geometric shapes. It was a complex and beautiful letter that is believed to have appeared on Easter Island before the arrival of Europeans and was known only to a small circle of priests and initiates. It is one of the few examples of independent invention of writing in the history of mankind, which in itself makes it a phenomenon. The main secret of Rongo Rongo is its unencrypted nature and sudden disappearance. No one has been able to decipher these characters convincingly, and the language they encode remains unknown. In addition, by the time the Europeans arrived, most of the island's inhabitants who knew this script had died of disease and slavery, and the few who survived were unable or unwilling to pass on this knowledge. Many of the tablets were lost or destroyed. Thus, this unique script, created in complete isolation, was locked up for understanding, as if its creators deliberately hid their secrets from the future, and their voices were forever silenced in the silent jungle. Traditional hypotheses about Rongo Rongo suggest that it may have been a logographic system, where each symbol represents a word or idea, a syllabic script, or even a mnemonic tool that helped priests memorize long songs, legends, or genealogies. Some researchers have tried to correlate it with Polynesian languages, but without convincing results. The main problems for decryption are the very limited number of preserved texts, only about 24 tablets, and the lack of bilingual inscriptions. There is also a version that writing could have been created relatively recently, perhaps even in the 17th century, as a reaction to the arrival of Europeans. But this does not explain its complexity. Some unconventional theories suggest that Rongo Rongo contains astronomical knowledge, prophecies about the future of the island, or even messages from extraterrestrial civilizations that may have visited Easter Island and passed this knowledge on to its inhabitants. There are ideas that this is a kind of magical writing that has the ability to influence reality or summon spirits, and that is why it was so jealously guarded. Perhaps she was recording information about the Moai, the giant statues of the island, or about the methods of moving them. The local traditions of the Rapa Nui people are full of stories of talking tablets, koau, rongo rongo, which preserved the wisdom of their ancestors and were accessible only to priests and chiefs. Legends say that these tablets had spiritual power and could affect the weather, crops, or the outcome of a battle. According to one legend, writing was brought to the island by the first king of Hotu, Matua, which indicates its ancient and sacred origin. What is actually written on the Rongo Rongo tablets? What language do they encode, and what Easter Island secrets do they hide? Will humanity ever be able to unravel this unique script, created in complete isolation? Or will its secrets forever remain silent, lost in history, continuing to remind us of forgotten knowledge and great civilizations that have sunk into oblivion, leaving only mysterious symbols on the tree? Ghosts of time, pre-epoch artifacts, and anomalous finds. Sometimes archaeologists discover objects that seem to have come from a different time. These anachronisms, or upart, out-of-place artifacts, challenge conventional ideas about the history and technological development of mankind. They make us think about the possibility of lost civilizations, time travelers, or even outside interference, as if the shadows of the future or the past whisper to us about the infinity of possibilities and forgotten inventions. Kamni Ica stones. Peru, age disputed. Kamni. The Ica stones are a collection of thousands of andesite stones found in the Ica region, Peru, with images etched on them. The most famous of them, popularized by Dr. Javier Cabrera, depicts scenes that seem to contradict established scientific ideas about history. They show dinosaurs such as Triceratopsians, Brontosaurs, and Pterosaurs battling humans, scenes that resemble surgical operations, including organ transplants and cesarean sections, ancient maps, images of people using telescopes, or even unknown aircraft and spaceships. These stones are said to date from the pre-Inca period, possibly from 60 million years ago to several thousand years BC. Their appearance and detail are amazing, and they have become one of the key arguments of proponents of the theory of paleocontact and the existence of ancient, highly developed civilizations. The main secret of Ike stones is their authenticity and origin. If these stones are authentic and were indeed created by ancient civilizations, then this would completely change our understanding of the history of the Earth, including the coexistence of humans and dinosaurs, as well as the presence of highly developed medical and astronomical knowledge in ancient times. Secrets of the Stone Giants. Unexplained megaliths and forgotten builders. The world is full of monumental structures built thousands of years ago whose scale and precision still baffle modern science. These stone giants, scattered across the globe, echo the stories of civilizations that had incredible engineering knowledge or perhaps relied on unknown forces, as if the stones themselves hold the whispers of their mysterious creators, challenging our understanding of ancient technologies and capabilities. The monumental structures in Sascaro, Peru, represent one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of the Andes. Although less well-known than Machu Picchu or Sacsayhuaman, these ruins, located high in the mountains, impress with their massiveness and inexplicable precision of stone processing. Giant basalt and diorite blocks, some of which weigh tens of tons, were fitted together with jewelry precision without using any mortar, forming walls that seem to be part of the mountain itself. In some places, the joints are so perfect that it is impossible to put even a knife blade between the stones. This raises the question of how the ancient Incas, or their predecessors, could have moved and handled such colossal blocks without a wheel, iron tools, or modern machinery. Their stonemasons seem to have knowledge beyond the usual understanding of primitive methods. These are not just rough-hewn stones. They are works of art that embody not only colossal work, but also a deep knowledge of geometry, statics, and possibly acoustics, because some of these structures have amazing resonant properties. Local legends say that the stones were soft as clay before they were set in place, or that the gods themselves helped the builders, using unknown forces to lift and lay these giants. Some researchers suggest that ancient Indians may have used levitation techniques or some form of sound vibrations to move rocks based on lost knowledge, but there is no direct evidence for this theory yet. It is noteworthy that many of these structures are located in strategically important or energetically active places, which suggests that some purpose goes beyond simple defense or housing. Perhaps they serve for astronomical observations or as portals to other dimensions. Sascaro, with its silent, grandiose walls, remains one of the most compelling proofs yet that ancient civilizations possess technologies that we still can't understand and reproduce, leaving us in awe of their forgotten craftsmanship and wondering what other secrets these silent stone giants in the heart of the Andes hide. Cairn Pape is a mysterious ancient structure on the Orkney Islands in Scotland, consisting of earthen mounds with internal stone chambers, some of which date back to the Neolithic period, more than 5,000 years ago. Unlike other megalithic monuments such as Stonehenge, Cairns Papas are not always easily accessible and are often hidden under the cover of moss and thyme, adding to their aura of mystery. Their architecture is striking in its complexity. Long, narrow passages lead to round or cross-shaped chambers that are supposed to have been used for burials or rituals. However, the true purpose of many of them remains a mystery. One of the most unexplained aspects is the precise astronomical orientations of some cairns, which align with the solstices and equinoxes, demonstrating the ancients' deep knowledge of the movement of celestial bodies. How could Stone Age people, without writing and advanced tools, have had such precision in astronomy and engineering? This suggests the existence of an elite or priestly class that held secret knowledge. Some cairns contain strange symbols and carvings that have no analogs in other places, which raises questions about their meaning and origin. Were they part of a lost language, mystical rites, or just artistic expressions? Local legends speak of little people or fairies who helped build these structures, or that the cairns are the gateway to the spirit world, hinting at their magical or ritual significance. Perhaps they served not only for burials, but also for initiations, rites of passage, or even as places to communicate with ancestors. Some researchers suggest that the cairns may have been energy centers that collect or emit some unknown energy, which explains their exact location and orientation. Cairnipape cairns continue to silently preserve their secrets in the misty landscapes of Orkney, reminding us of the depth and mystery of ancient beliefs and the incredible abilities of their creators, which remain hidden under thousands of years of earth and time. The monoliths of Carnac, located in Brittany, France, are the world's largest collection of megalithic structures consisting of thousands of standing stones or menhirs arranged in long rows. These rows, which are several kilometers long, were built between 4500 and 2000 BC, making them older than Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids. Who built them and for what purpose remains one of the greatest archaeological mysteries. Some of the stones reach 20 meters in height and weigh hundreds of tons, raising questions about their transportation and installation methods. These are not just random clusters of rocks. They are located with amazing precision and, according to some theories, form a complex astronomical observatory, indicating solstices, equinoxes, and even more complex lunar cycles. If so, then the ancient inhabitants of Brittany had an incredible knowledge of astronomy and mathematics. Other versions suggest that Carnac could have been a huge necropolis, a sacred place for burials, or a cult center where grandiose rituals were performed. Local legends say that these stones are Roman legionnaires turned to stone, or that they were installed by druids using magic. There are also theories that the rows of stones may have been territorial markers, marking boundaries or paths, or symbolizing the cosmic order, reflecting the celestial constellations on Earth. But why exactly such a colossal scale? What kind of society could have mobilized so many resources and labor to create such a structure? The lack of written sources and cultural analogs makes the solution even more difficult. The monoliths of Carnac continue to stand silently in the Breton fields, holding the enigma of an ancient civilization whose ambition and knowledge surpassed anything we can imagine, and whose whispering centuries make us wonder about the limits of human capabilities and the secrets that the earth itself hides. The Gate of the Sun, located in Tiwanaku, Bolivia, is a monumental stone passage carved from a single block of andesite that impresses with its precision and complexity of carving. With a height of about 3 meters and a width of 4 meters, they date from about 501,000 years AD and are part of the ruins of the ancient city of Tiwanaku, the predecessor of the Inca civilization, located at an altitude of about 3,800 meters above sea level. The most amazing feature of the Sun Gate is its intricate hieroglyphic carving, which depicts a central figure known as the Gate God, or Viracocha, surrounded by winged figures. Many researchers believe that this carving is an ancient calendar that counts not only the solar cycles, but also the movement of Venus and possibly other planets, which indicates the amazing astronomical knowledge of the creators. How could the ancient people, without advanced metallurgy to cut such hard stone, and modern astronomical instruments, have achieved such precision and detail? This gives rise to theories about the existence of lost technologies or the help of higher forces. Some speculate that the Gate of the Sun may have been not just a calendar, but an astronomical computer capable of predicting celestial events, or even a portal to other dimensions or times, as local lore whispers. Destruction in Tiwanaku and the mysterious disappearance of its inhabitants around 1000 AD adds another layer of mystery. Was it a natural disaster, climate change, or something more inexplicable? The Gate of the Sun, standing in the silent high desert, continues to be a living testament to a great but forgotten civilization, whose knowledge and achievements still exceed our understanding and whose history awaits its full disclosure, challenging everything we know about the past of humanity. Sacsayhuaman, located on the outskirts of Cusco in Peru, is a monumental complex of megalithic walls believed to have been built by the Incas or their predecessors. But the scale and precision of the construction is amazing. The walls of Sacsayhuaman are made up of huge, irregular limestone blocks, some of which weigh more than 100 tons. These blocks are fitted to each other with such incredible precision that it is impossible to push even a piece of paper between them, and at the same time they are connected without any solution, forming perfect locks that can withstand the strongest earthquakes. How did the ancient builders transport, lift, and process such colossal stones without using the wheel and modern technology? This issue is hotly debated among archaeologists. Conventional theories speak of labor-intensive methods using inclined planes, levers, and a huge amount of labor, but even this does not explain the amazing precision of the fit and the lack of tool processing traces that could explain such clean cuts. Local traditions and legends passed down from generation to generation hint at the help of the gods or the use of unknown technologies that allow you to soften the stone or levitate it. Some researchers suggest that the builders of Sacsayhuaman had knowledge in the field of sound vibrations that could change the properties of stone or use some forms of energy unknown today. Sacsayhuaman also has a complex asymmetrical shape, resembling a lightning bolt or a cougar's head, which may have had ritual or astronomical significance. It's not just a fortress. It could be a huge temple, an observatory, or an energy center connecting the earthly with the heavenly. The silent walls of Sacsayhuaman, they continue to keep their secrets, offering us only to admire their greatness and wonder about the forgotten knowledge and powers that allowed the ancients to create these truly supernatural structures, as if history itself whispers to us about the limits of our understanding. Mysterious messages, unencrypted scripts, and incomprehensible symbols. Language is the key to culture and history, but some ancient scripts and symbols remain mute, defying all attempts to decipher them. These cryptic messages from the past contain knowledge and secrets that could change our understanding of ancient civilizations, as if the invisible voices of our ancestors are trying to reach us through the centuries, but their words remain unintelligible. Rukopis. The Voynich manuscript is perhaps the most mysterious manuscript in the world, named after Polish-American bookseller Wilfrid Voynich, who purchased it in 1912. This ancient folio, dating from the 15th century, is written in an unknown language, using a unique alphabet that has not yet been deciphered. Its pages are filled with strange, colorful illustrations of plants that do not exist in nature, astronomical diagrams that do not correspond to known star charts, and images of naked women engaged in obscure rituals, which gives it a mystical and even occult character. Many linguists, cryptographers, historians, and even artificial intelligence specialists have tried to decipher the manuscript for centuries, but all attempts have been futile. None of the hypotheses about the language, whether it is encrypted Latin, medieval Hebrew, Old German dialect, or even a completely new fictional language, has received convincing confirmation. These are not just random characters. There is a certain internal logic and structure that indicates that this is not just a collection of meaningless scribbles. There are several main theories about the nature of the Voynich manuscript. One of them is a cipher, a complex and still unbreakable code that may hide important alchemical, medical, or astrological knowledge intended for a narrow circle of initiates. Some researchers suggest that it could be a pharmacological treatise or herbarium describing unknown plants and their medicinal properties. But why then do they not correspond to real plants? Another popular version is a hoax, a sophisticated forgery designed to lure money from wealthy patrons, possibly during the Renaissance, when the demand for such curiosities was high. But who could have had the talent and patience to create such a complex and consistent hoax that still deceives the minds of the best specialists? The most unusual theories suggest that the manuscript may have been written by aliens or beings from another dimension, or that it is a message from the future, lost in time, or even an artifact containing lost knowledge of the ancients, beyond modern understanding. The Voynich manuscript, he continues to silently preserve his secrets at Yale University, remaining one of the most fascinating and unyielding historical documents that makes us wonder about the limits of human knowledge and what other encrypted messages from the past are waiting in the wings to be revealed, or will forever remain an unfathomable mystery. The Phaistos disc is an artifact discovered by Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier in 1908 on the island of Crete. This round clay disc, dating from about 1700 BC, is unique in that on both sides of it, 241 characters are printed in a spiral pattern, forming an unknown script. The characters are not cut, but printed, making it one of the earliest examples of the use of printing plates in history, millennia before Gutenberg's invention. What this language is and what it means remains a complete mystery. The writing system depicted on the disc has no direct analogs with any known Minoan, Mycenaean, or any other ancient script. This is not the linear letter A or B used in Crete at that time. It's like a message from another reality, left by an unknown civilization. The disc, with its mysterious symbols, causes endless controversy and speculation. Was it part of an ancient ritual, a recording of some song, prayer, or perhaps it was a calendar or even a map? Despite numerous decryption attempts, the Phaistos disc remains unreadable. Some scientists suggest that it can be a syllabic letter, others a logographicon. Symbols include images of human figures, animals, plants, tools, and abstract signs, which further complicates interpretation. There is a lack of context. This is the only known artifact with such writing. Perhaps the disc is the only surviving fragment of some larger recording system that has been lost forever. Some theories suggest that it may be a forgery created in later times to deceive archaeologists, but manufacturing methods and dating seem to confirm its authenticity. There are also more exotic hypotheses that link the disc to Atlanteans, extraterrestrial civilizations, or lost knowledge about cosmic cycles. Maybe it was a message meant for future generations, left behind by a great but forgotten culture, or it was some kind of amulet containing magical spells. The Phaistos disc, with its silent, enigmatic symbols, continues to be one of the most intriguing artifacts of antiquity, a symbol of knowledge that has been lost and a message that may never be understood, leaving us forever searching for the key to its mysteries. Rongo Rongo. This is a unique writing system found on Easter Island, which has been tried to decipher since its discovery in the 19th century. These wooden tablets and objects, covered with thousands of carefully carved glyphs, represent a mysterious system that has no analogs with any other known writing. The Rapa Nui people of Easter Island claim that their ancestors had the ability to read and write these symbols. But by the time the Europeans arrived, this knowledge was almost lost, and most of the priests and experts were dead or enslaved. It is believed that of all the numerous tablets, only about 24 have come down to us, which makes them even more valuable and mysterious. Glyphi Rongo Rongo glyphs represent anthropomorphic figures, animals, plants, and abstract symbols arranged in a so-called boustrophodon reading takes place alternately from left to right and from right to left, turning the tablet after each line. This is a very unusual system that makes it difficult to decipher. The main problem in deciphering Rongo Rongo is the lack of bilingual texts and too few surviving samples. Scientists have tried to find a connection with other Polynesian languages, but to no avail. Some researchers suggest that Rongo Rongo may be a mnemonic system, a memory aid, or a ritual language, rather than a full-fledged written language capable of transmitting complex thoughts. Others believe that this is a lost script that contained chronicles, myths, or even astronomical knowledge of the Rapa Nui people. One of the most famous attempts at decoding, made by the Russian researcher Yuri Knorozov, who successfully deciphered the Mayan script, also did not give final results, although he suggested the syllabic nature of the letter. There are theories that Rongo Rongo was invented spontaneously by the island's inhabitants, or that it was learned from outside, perhaps from visits by unknown navigators. Local legends say that these tablets were a gift from the gods, or that they contain the secrets of the bird Tiruanirum, Sinarnum, the bird people, the ancient rulers of the island. Rongo Rongo. It is not just a set of symbols. It is a silent witness to the tragedy of lost knowledge, when an entire culture forgets its own language, leaving only an unsolvable riddle for posterity. Rongo Rongo tablets, with their mysterious patterns, continue to lie silently in museums around the world, whispering about forgotten stories and lost wisdom, waiting for the day when their secrets will be revealed, or forever remaining a symbol of the unfathomable depth of human history and unsolved messages from the past. Curses and sinister prophecies, secrets that transcend reason. History is full of stories of curses that seemingly doomed entire families or generations, and of prophecies that predicted future calamities with astonishing accuracy. These phenomena challenge rational thinking, making us think about the existence of hidden forces or the inexplicable connection between the past, present, and future, as if the shadows of ancient fortune-tellers still hover in the air, whispering to us about the impending fate. Tutankhamun's curse is one of the most famous and sinister legends surrounding Egyptian mummies. It originated after the discovery of the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun in 1922 by Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon. Just a few months after the tomb was opened, Lord Carnarvon, the sponsor of the expedition, died of a mysterious illness. After that, over the course of several years, other members of Carter's team, as well as those who were somehow connected with the discovery of the tomb, began to die one by one. Among them were archaeologists, scientists, tomb visitors, and even pets, which gave rise to rumors of an ancient curse of the pharaoh protecting their eternal rest. Stories of the strange events that accompanied these deaths, such as the power outage in Cairo at the time of Carnarvon's death, or the appearance of a cobra in Carter's house, a symbol of Pharaoh's protection, only added fuel to the fire of mysticism, turning the story into a real urban legend. It seemed that anyone who dared to disturb the young pharaoh's peace would be punished by an invisible but merciless force. There are scientific explanations for the curse, of course. The most widely accepted theory suggests that the deaths were caused by ancient bacteria or fungi that lingered for centuries in a sealed tomb and were released into the air when it was opened. Mummies and objects in the tomb may have contained mold spores, pathogens, or even radioactive elements from natural minerals that could cause serious lung diseases or poisoning. However, critics of this theory point out that Howard Carter, who spent the most time in the tomb, lived many years after its discovery and died of natural causes at the age of 64. Also, not everyone who visited the tomb became ill or died. Other theories suggest that the deaths were just coincidences, and that the sensational newspapers of the time, hungry for high-profile stories, exaggerated and mystified common illnesses and accidents. A psychological factor, or the nocebo effect, could also play a role. People who believed in the curse could experience severe stress and fear, which weakened their immunity and made them more vulnerable to diseases. However, despite all rational explanations, the mystical aura around the curse of Tutankhamun persists, and this story continues to excite minds and cause an ominous awe. The legend of Tutankhamun's curse is deeply ingrained in popular culture, inspiring many films, books, and TV shows that continue to exploit the theme of the pharaoh's revenge. It has become a symbol not only of the mystery of ancient Egypt, but also of the dangers that lie in wait for those who dare to disturb the ancient peace. The story of the mummy who takes revenge has become an archetype that feeds fears of the unknown and recalls the power of ancient spells that may exist outside of time and space. Even today, as scientists continue to search for new explanations, Tutankhamun's curse remains one of the most sinister and unsolved mysteries in the history of archaeology, reminding us of the limits of our understanding between science and the supernatural. Nostradamus' prophecies are one of the most famous and controversial phenomena in the history of predictions. Michel de Nostradam, a 16th century French pharmacist and astrologer, published his famous book, Centuries, containing hundreds of quatrains, written in a peculiar, archaic French language mixed with Latin, Greek, and occasionally Arabic. These prophecies are deliberately vague, ambiguous, and encrypted, which allows us to interpret them in different ways and find in them predictions of almost any historical events. Nostradamus apparently was afraid of the persecution of the Inquisition and therefore used this esoteric style. His followers claim that he predicted many key events in world history, from the French Revolution and the rise of Napoleon and Hitler, to the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and the September 11th attacks. It would seem that in his mysterious lines are hidden the keys to all future upheavals. However, critics of Nostradamus' prophecies point out their uncertainty and post factum after-the-fact interpretation. The nebula of language and the lack of clear geographical or temporal references make it easy to fit any historical event to the corresponding quatrain after it has already occurred. For example, a young lion will defeat an old one can be interpreted as the death of Henry VI in a tournament, but it can also be applied to many other events where there is a generational struggle. The scientific approach requires predictions to be specific and verifiable before the event, which is not the case with Nostradamus. In addition, many predicted events are only the result of creative interpretation or even manipulation of the text. Skeptics argue that this is more a literary work inspired by the mysticism of its time rather than an accurate prophecy. Nostradamus' cultural influence, however, is enormous. His prophecies continue to inspire conspiracy theories and become the subject of heated debates, especially during times of global crisis, when people look for answers and predictions in ancient texts. Despite scientific skepticism, the Nostradamus phenomenon continues to excite minds, and many people still believe in his visionary abilities. This is due not only to the thirst for a miracle, but also to the fact that some of his quatrains really seem surprisingly consonant with real events, even if they are coincidences. Perhaps Nostradamus had some kind of intuitive gift that allowed him to capture the general trends and moods of future eras, even if he could not predict them in detail. Or perhaps its power lay not in its accuracy, but in its ability to create a mystical text that will be relevant for many generations, inspiring them to search for meaning in the chaos of history. Nostradamus. Prophecies remain one of the most fascinating intellectual puzzles, a bridge between the rational and the irrational, an eternal reminder of the human quest to know the future and of the mysterious nature of time itself, which may not be as linear as we think. The Curse of the Kennedy Shack is a modern but equally sinister and widely discussed topic concerning one of the most powerful families in American history. From the early 1940s to the present day, the Kennedy family was haunted by a series of tragic events: unexplained deaths, mysterious murders, plane crashes, illnesses, and accidents. Many of these tragedies involve family members who were in their prime, in high positions, or with great potential, leading the public to speak of the Kennedy curse. Among the most famous victims, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963, the murder of his brother Robert F. Kennedy in 1968, as well as the plane crashes that killed Joseph P. Kennedy, Jr., John F. Kennedy, Jr., and his wife. The list was filled with overdose deaths, suicides, skiing, and car accidents, as if the invisible hand of doom was mercilessly taking away one family member after another. Rational explanations for this curse focus on several factors. First of all, this obraz żyzni is the Kennedy lifestyle. Being a rich and influential family, they led an active social life, often engaged in risky sports, traveled on private planes, and participated in political activities, which objectively increases the chances of accidents or assassination attempts. Their high position in politics also made them a target for enemies. In addition, the media attention to this family was unprecedented, and each tragedy was widely covered, creating the illusion of a curse by focusing attention on negative events. From a psychological point of view, the confirmation effect also plays a role. People tend to notice and remember those events that confirm their beliefs about the curse, while ignoring the usual, non-tragic aspects of family life. However, the scale and frequency of tragedies still raise questions that go beyond mere statistics and coincidences. Mystical explanations for the Kennedy curse include legends of fatal karma associated with the family's past deeds, or of a curse placed on them by certain detractors or victims of their ambitions. Some associate the curse with the family's Irish roots and Celtic myths about ancestral curses. Others suggest that this may be the result of occult rituals, or some supernatural entity that haunts them, feeding on their grief and influence. This tragic saga has become an integral part of American folklore, transforming the Kennedy family from a political dynasty into a modern myth in which success and power go hand in hand with inevitable tragedy. The Kennedy Shack curse, real or imagined, remains one of the darkest and most debated phenomena in modern history, reminding us of the fragility of human life and how deeply tragedies can weave into the fabric of national identity, raising questions about the invisible forces that control the destinies of great families. The mysteries of Loch Ness and the unknown depths. Secrets of the water worlds. The world is full of deep waters, lakes, oceans, swamps that hide their own unique secrets. Beneath the surface of these waters, in the bottomless depths and misty backwaters, legends have been born for centuries about incredible creatures, sunken cities, and anomalies that challenge our understanding of marine and lake life. These water riddles, shrouded in a haze of mysticism and scientific controversy, continue to excite the imagination, reminding us that even in our studied world, there are still unexplored corners where the past is intertwined with legend, and reality pales in the face of the inexplicable. Loch Ness, a giant freshwater body stretching for 37 kilometers in the Scottish Highlands and reaching a depth of more than 230 meters, is one of the most mysterious places on the planet. Its dark, cold waters, surrounded by misty mountains, have given rise to stories about the mysterious creature known as Nessie for centuries. The first mention of a strange animal in Loch Ness dates back to the 6th century when the Irish monk St. Columba, according to the lives of the inhabitants, encountered a water beast that attacked a bather. He blessed the water and forced the monster to retreat. However, the real glory to the lake came in the 1930s, especially after the construction of a road along its banks, which made it more accessible. A series of sightings, including the famous, but later exposed as a hoax, surgeon's photo from 1934, forever cemented Loch Ness as the main refuge of cryptozoology and a symbol of unexplained depths, attracting the attention of scientists, tourists, and dreamers from all over the world. Every year, thousands of people flock to its shores, hoping to see at least the edge of this legend, and the lake itself has become an integral part of the Scottish national myth. The scientific community overwhelmingly rejects the existence of a large unknown animal in Loch Ness. Skeptics point to many possible explanations for all the observations. Most often, the Loch Ness phenomenon is associated with optical illusions and the play of light on the water, especially in fog and cloud conditions, which can distort the perception of familiar objects. For example, waves, ripples, floating logs, large fish, such as sturgeon, although they are rare in Loch Ness, or even flocks of birds flying low over the water can be mistaken for a part of the body of a large creature. In addition, scientists emphasize that the population of such a large animal, capable of surviving and reproducing in such a cold and food-poor lake, would have to consist of many individuals, and their bodies would sooner or later be found, which has not yet happened. Geological processes, such as methane emissions from the bottom, which could cause waves on the surface, are also considered as an explanation for some water movements. All attempts to find Nessie using echo sounders, underwater cameras, and even mini submarines over the decades have yielded no conclusive evidence, only temporary, often controversial contacts that did not stand up to scientific scrutiny. However, despite the lack of irrefutable evidence, supporters of the existence of Nessie put forward many counter-arguments and alternative theories. The most popular hypothesis is that of a plesiosaur, a prehistoric marine reptile that somehow survived in an isolated loch, possibly thanks to underground caves connecting Loch Ness to the sea, although this is extremely unlikely geologically, or an unknown species of giant eel. Loch Ness is unique for its depth and dark, peat-rich waters, making it an ideal hiding place for a large creature. Some researchers suggest that Nessie is not a single animal, but an entire population that rarely rises to the surface. Proponents of the existence of Nessie also point to hundreds of witness statements, often from people who are not prone to fantasy, as well as the presence of numerous, albeit controversial, photos, videos, and echo sounders, which in their opinion cannot be explained solely by optical illusions or known animals. They believe that the existence of Nessie, even if it is not scientifically proven, remains an important symbol of the unexplored depths of our world. In Scottish folklore, Loch Ness has always been associated with mystical creatures. Long before the modern legend of Nessie, locals told stories of kelpies or water horses that could take various forms to lure people into the water, or of giant eels living in the depths. These traditions, passed down from generation to generation, created the cultural basis for the modern legend of the Loch Ness Monster, which became the modern incarnation of these ancient water spirits. The lake itself, with its gloomy and majestic beauty, is a symbol of the wild and untamed nature of Scotland, and the fog that often envelops it gives it an even more mystical and mysterious appearance, as if Nessie is not just an animal, but a living embodiment of the lake itself, its soul, and the ancient secrets that it holds. Does the Loch Ness Monster really exist, or is it just a trick of light and human imagination, fueled by ancient legends? Why, despite decades of intensive research and the use of modern technologies, has not a single convincing proof of its existence been found? What other secrets are hidden in the bottomless depths of Loch Ness that could explain the phenomenon of Nessie, or point to the existence of other equally amazing creatures that live in impenetrable waters that forever elude the eyes of science? Lake Baikal, located in eastern Siberia, is a true natural wonder, the deepest freshwater lake in the world, containing about 20% of the world's total freshwater reserves. Its age is estimated at 25–30 million years, making it one of the oldest lakes on Earth. Due to its exceptional depth of 1,642 meters and its huge volume of water, Lake Baikal has a unique ecosystem with thousands of endemic plant and animal species that are not found anywhere else in the world. Its waters are surprisingly clear and transparent, allowing you to see the bottom for tens of meters. However, behind this crystal clear and majestic beauty lies many unsolved mysteries and anomalies that have been attributed to its mystical depths for centuries. From unexplained lights in the sky to strange underwater objects, and even alleged encounters with unidentified underwater vehicles. Baikal is not just a lake, but a living laboratory of anomalous phenomena that attracts the attention of ufologists, cryptozoologists, and paranormal researchers, as if its very bottom holds a portal to another dimension. Stories about mysterious phenomena on Lake Baikal go back to ancient times. Local Buryat and Tunguska tribes have long talked about the spirits of the lake, about shamans who can communicate with the underwater worlds, and about the incredible creatures that live in its depths. However, in recent decades, especially since the Soviet era, there have been numerous reports of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, appearing over Lake Baikal, and, more surprisingly, unidentified underwater objects, NGOs, that move in its depths with incredible speed and maneuverability, far exceeding the capabilities of modern submarines. Reports include sightings of bright spheres, triangular apparatuses, and even collisions of Soviet Navy submarines with something elusive and incredibly fast. The most well-known cases, such as the 1982 incident when a group of military divers reportedly encountered humanoid creatures in silver suits who were moving without scuba gear, only add fuel to the mystery. All these anomalies that occur in the deepest lake on the planet make you wonder, what is hidden in its bottomless depths and what secrets it holds, inaccessible to human understanding? Scientific attempts to explain the anomalies of Lake Baikal are often reduced to known natural phenomena. UFO sightings and NGO sightings may involve atmospheric phenomena, such as rare types of lightning, ball lightning, mirages, or light reflections. Geological features of Lake Baikal, located in a zone of active seismicity and with many gas hydrates on the bottom, can cause methane emissions, which leads to the formation of bubbles on the surface, which when refracted by light can look like strange objects or even glow. Underground springs and currents can also create unusual effects. Reports of clashes with NGOs are often attributed to identification errors, for example with large fish or rare species of Baikal seals, which can be mistaken for something larger with poor visibility, or they can be the result of military tests, which of course are conducted in the strictest secrecy and can be mistaken for something extraterrestrial. In addition, the depth and isolation of the lake make it an ideal place to conduct secret experiments, the results of which can be interpreted as anomalies. However, for many, these explanations seem insufficient. Proponents of paranormal theories believe that Baikal is a portal or anomalous zone, where the boundaries between dimensions are thinned, allowing unexplained objects and creatures to appear. Perhaps in the depths of the lake, there is an underwater base of an alien civilization that uses Lake Baikal as a hidden outpost on Earth. Stories of humanoid creatures that can survive at great depths without special equipment suggest unknown forms of life, adapted to extreme conditions, or intelligent beings with technologies that are still unknown to us. Also considered is a version of an ancient, forgotten civilization that may have built its cities at the bottom of the lake before its waters rose, and now their remains or technologies are the source of mysterious signals and objects. In Buryat and Eving folklore, Baikal has always been a sacred place, home to powerful spirits, the masters of the lake, who could both help and punish people. There are legends about the water snake Lusun, or master of Lake Baikal, which is the embodiment of the water element and is able to cause storms, or conversely, give good luck. These myths reflect a deep respect and fear for the uncharted depths of the lake, as well as the belief that it is inhabited by entities beyond human understanding. Stories of subterranean worlds and creatures capable of living underwater are an integral part of these tales, giving scientific anomalies a mystical context. What is really hidden in the bottomless depths of Lake Baikal? Are the strange objects and glows manifestations of natural phenomena or evidence of something much more unusual? Why has this particular lake become the center of so many unexplained incidents? What secrets of the ancient world and possible alien visits it holds? And can we ever solve the mysteries that Baikal so jealously protects in its icy embrace? The Lost City of Z, or the Lost City of Z, is a legendary settlement that, according to British explorer Percy Fawcett, was located somewhere deep in the vast and inhospitable Amazon jungle in what is now Brazil. In the early 20th century, Fawcett, one of the last great Victorian explorers obsessed with finding traces of ancient civilizations in South America, came across an ancient document known as Manuscript 512, written in 1753 by a Portuguese bandeirante, explorer-adventurer. This document described the ruins of an ancient city with arches, statues, and multi-story buildings found in the depths of the Brazilian jungle, which was incredibly developed for a region considered primitive. Fascinated by this manuscript, Fawcett spent years poring over ancient maps, local legends, and Native American lore about the City of Whites or City of Stones, trying to piece together all the pieces of information that might lead him to this lost civilization. For him, City Z was not just an archaeological find, but proof of the existence of a highly developed, possibly Proto-Atlantean civilization in the New World, which could turn all ideas about pre-Columbian America upside down. His expeditions, shrouded in romance and danger, became legendary, and the City of Z itself became a symbol of the greatest adventure and unsolved mystery. In 1925, Percy Fawcett, along with his son Jack and friend Raleigh Rimmel, set out on his last expedition into the jungles of Mato Grosso, Brazil, to find City Z. It was a carefully planned but extremely risky mission to some of the wildest and most dangerous places on Earth. Their last known signal was sent from a camp called Dead Horse, and after that, the three explorers disappeared without a trace. No trace of their bodies, equipment, or evidence of their fate has ever been found. The numerous search expeditions that followed them also failed to produce results, and some of them disappeared themselves, fueling the myth of the Amazon curse. The disappearance of Fawcett and his companions became one of the most famous mysteries of the 20th century, turning him into the archetype of a brave but tragically lost explorer whose obsession with the mystery cost him his life. The main theory regarding the disappearance of Fawcett and his team is that they died of starvation, disease, or were killed by hostile Native American tribes. The Amazon jungle is an extremely harsh and inhospitable environment where malaria, yellow fever, venomous snakes and insects, as well as food shortages, pose a deadly threat to anyone who does not know the local conditions. Local tribes, such as the Singu, often showed hostility to outsiders who invaded their territories. Perhaps Fawcett's expedition, despite all his precautions, had gone too far into lands that the natives considered sacred or simply hostile to the outside world. It is also possible that Fawcett, who was known for his stubbornness and unwillingness to abandon the target, simply overestimated his strength or underestimated the dangers that led to their fatal end, and their remains were never found because they were swallowed up by the jungle itself, leaving no trace. More intriguing theories suggest that Fawcett and his companions may have deliberately chosen to stay with one of the Native American tribes, assimilating with them. Perhaps they found the City of Z and, realizing its importance or fearing that its discovery would be used to harm, decided to remain its guardians, voluntarily disappearing from the civilized world. Some researchers suggest that the City of Z was not just a ruin, but a kind of mystical place that could absorb travelers or transfer them to another dimension. There are also versions of a secret society that guarded access to this city and eliminated falsetto, keep a secret. In the folklore of the Amazon, there are tales of lost cities guarded by ancient gods or spirits, and of people who enter them and never return, which gives Fawcett's disappearance a mystical connotation. The Native American tribes of the Amazon are rich in oral lore about lost cities and ancient civilizations that once flourished in the jungle. Some of these legends speak of stone cities hidden deep in forests inhabited by white men or descendants of ancient gods. There are stories of shamans who may enter these cities on spiritual journeys, but warn that they are deadly to the uninitiated. These tales may have been a source of inspiration for Fawcett, but now they have become part of his own legend, linking the explorer's fate to myths about forgotten worlds hidden in the heart of virgin forests. Was City Z just a figment of Fawcett's imagination? Or did it really exist and Fawcett got too close to its mystery? What secrets could the Amazon jungle hold, which so jealously guarded its treasures that it swallowed up one of the greatest explorers of its era? Why did so much effort to find Fawcett and his team fail? And may the Amazon one day reveal its deepest secret, hidden under the cover of impenetrable greenery? Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, located in the South Pacific Ocean, is one of the most remote inhabited islands in the world, a real gem of ancient history, shrouded in a veil of mystery. Known for its colossal stone moai statues, reaching up to 10 meters in height and weighing up to 80 tons, it is an archaeological mystery that continues to excite the minds of scientists and ordinary people. There are more than 900 moai on the island, most of which were carved from volcanic tuff in the Rano Rarakukwari and then moved tens of kilometers to ceremonial platforms, ahus, along the coast. These statues, with their distinctive elongated faces, deep-set eyes, and massive torsos, were created by the ancient Polynesians, the ancestors of the modern Rapa Nui, presumably between 1250 and 1500 AD. They served as ritual objects, embodying deified ancestors or chieftains, and symbolized the religious beliefs and social structure of the ancient Rapa Nui society. However, the biggest question that still has no definitive answer is how these ancient people, without wheels, draft animals, and complex mechanisms, were able to create, move, and install these colossal stone sculptures scattered throughout the island. Accepted scientific theories that attempt to explain moai transportation are based on methods available to the ancient Polynesians. The most popular hypothesis suggests that the statues were moved by means of wooden sledges or slingshots, cradles, which were dragged along the ground using a large amount of labor. To reduce friction, a lubricant made from plant fibers or wet clay soils could be used. Another theory, dubbed moai walking, suggests that the statues may have walked in an upright position, swaying from side to side like a refrigerator with ropes tied to their tops. Numerous experiments conducted by modern researchers have shown that these methods can be implemented, but require a huge number of people and wood for ropes and levers, as well as ideal conditions, which calls into question their application throughout the island and for all moai. In addition, the complete absence of written evidence or images of the transportation process makes all these theories only speculative reconstructions, not supported by direct historical data. There are more unusual theories that try to explain the mystery of moai. Some suggest that the ancient Rapa Nui people possessed lost technologies or knowledge gained from some teachers, perhaps even extraterrestrial origin, which allowed them to use unknown methods of levitation or moving weights. This idea is often fueled by myths about ancient gods who can move mountains. Other theories point to the possibility of using complex, now lost, wooden structures that worked like levers or cranes, but whose traces were destroyed by time or deforestation. There is also a hypothesis of collective hypnotic power or an unknown natural phenomenon that could facilitate the movement of stones, which, of course, belongs to the field of pure speculation. The lack of comprehensive archaeological data and written sources on construction methods leaves a huge field for imagination. In Rapa Nui folklore and mythology, moai are not just statues, but living entities endowed with spiritual power. Mana. Legends tell of the mythical power of mana, which could be passed on to chosen chieftains or priests, allowing them to move stones using magic power or voice. There is a legend about a woman named Hinavehiwe who had the ability to make Moai walk by simply chanting spells, and how after she left, the statues froze in their places. These myths reflect a reverence for the monumentality of the Moai and a desire to explain their creation through supernatural forces when rational explanation was impossible or unknown, which only deepens the mystery of their creation and movement. How did the ancient Rapa Nui people actually move these colossal stone images around the island? Why is there no reliable evidence or instructions for this process? What significance did these statues have for the survival and decline of their civilization? And what other secrets does this mysterious island in the Pacific Ocean hide? A living monument of human ingenuity and lost knowledge that challenges our understanding of the possibilities of the ancient world. Lost cities and undiscovered treasures. The ghosts of ancient megacities. There are stories all over the world about legendary cities that, according to legend, were the majestic centers of ancient civilizations, but then disappeared from the face of the earth, swallowed up by the sands of time, the jungle, or the depths of the sea. These cities, often associated with incredible wealth or mystical knowledge, have been exciting the imagination of adventurers and scientists for centuries. Their search is not just an archaeology, but an immersion in the world of myths, legends, and hopes that someday humanity will be able to find these lost pearls of the past, which hold the keys to the unsolved pages of history. The legend of Atlantis, perhaps the most famous of all the lost city myths, dates back to the writings of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, written around 360 BC, Plato describes Atlantis in detail not as a myth, but as a real and powerful maritime power that existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules, now the Strait of Gibraltar. He describes it as a highly developed civilization with magnificent temples, sophisticated irrigation systems, vast wealth extracted from the Earth's interior, including a certain orichalcum, a shiny metal that surpasses gold, and advanced technologies that can use the power of water. The Atlanteans, according to Plato, were originally virtuous and wise, but eventually became proud and greedy, which led to their downfall. Eventually, as a punishment for their arrogance, about 9,000 years before the time of Solon, that is, around 9600 BC, Atlantis was swallowed up by the ocean in one terrible day and night, disappearing under the waves. This narrative, given by Plato through his ancestor Solon, who supposedly learned about Atlantis from Egyptian priests, became the basis for countless searches, speculations, and works of art, turning Atlantis into the archetype of a lost utopia. The scientific community overwhelmingly views Atlantis as a philosophical allegory or myth created by Plato to illustrate his political and ethical ideas about the ideal state, as well as to warn against pride and aggression. Many scholars believe that Plato may have been inspired by real events, such as the eruption of Santorini, Thera, around 1600 BC, which led to the demise of the Minoan civilization in Crete, but greatly exaggerated their scale and time frame for his own purposes. There is no convincing archaeological or geological evidence for the existence of such a continent or island in the Atlantic Ocean at the time specified by Plato. The ocean floor in the area of the supposed location of Atlantis was carefully studied, and no traces of sunken cities matching Plato's description were found. Changes in sea level, even significant ones, couldn't completely hide such a huge continent in a single day. In addition, the technological level attributed by Plato to Atlantis is significantly ahead of the known capabilities of that period, which makes its existence at that time extremely unlikely. However, despite scientific skepticism, the search for Atlantis continues unabated, and enthusiasts put forward many alternative theories about its possible location and true nature. Some researchers suggest that Atlantis may not have been a continent, but a large island or coastal city located in the Mediterranean Sea, for example, Santorini, Thera, in the Caribbean, near the Azores, or even in the North Sea, and that Plato's account was only a highly distorted description of a real event. The version that Atlantis was located in the Bermuda Triangle, also popular, since this region itself is known for anomalies and disappearances. Some theories link Atlantis to Mu or Lemuria, other hypothetical lost continents in the Pacific and Indian Oceans, suggesting that they were part of a single global civilization destroyed in a planetary catastrophe. There are also esoteric and occult versions that claim that Atlantis was not a physical place, but a spiritual center or source of ancient knowledge accessible only to initiates, or that it exists in another dimension, and Plato's story is a coded message. The myth of Atlantis has had a huge impact on culture and art, becoming a symbol of a lost paradise, a technologically advanced but lost civilization, as well as a warning about the consequences of pride. Countless books, movies, TV shows, and even computer games appeal to the image of Atlantis, trying to represent its splendor and mystery. Legends about it are intertwined with legends about the great floods, the golden age of mankind, and the cycles of death and rebirth of civilizations, which makes it not just a myth, but a universal archetype. Some secret societies and occult teachings still believe in the existence of Atlantis as a source of ancient knowledge and magic, trying to find its hidden traces or reveal its secrets through meditation and spiritual practices. And it continues to be one of the most fascinating and unsolved mysteries in the history of mankind. Did Atlantis really exist, or is it just a figment of Plato's imagination? If it was real, where was it located, and what was the real reason for its demise? What knowledge might have been lost along with it, and can it ever be found? And why does this legend continue to affect our collective consciousness so strongly, forcing us to search for traces of lost civilizations and dream of a world that was destroyed in one terrible day and night, leaving only whispers in ancient manuscripts and echoes in our hearts? Petra, a lost city in modern-day Jordan, is one of the world's most impressive archaeological wonders, carved right out of the pink sandstone cliffs. Founded by the Nabateans, an ancient Arab people, around the 4th century BC, Petra flourished as the capital of the Nabatean kingdom, located at the crossroads of the most important trade routes between Arabia, Egypt, Syria, and India. Its location in a deep gorge, accessed through the narrow Sick Canyon, made it virtually impregnable. The Nabateans, they were skilled engineers and architects who created a complex water supply system in the desert, as well as carved out of the rocks grand facades of tombs, temples, and dwellings, the most famous of which is El Khazne, Treasury. The city was home to tens of thousands of people and flourished through the trade of incense, spices, and other goods, becoming a symbol of wealth and cultural exchange. It flourished for several centuries until it was annexed by the Roman Empire in the 1st century AD. Then its influence gradually began to wane, and by the 7th century AD, Petra was almost completely abandoned, buried under the sands of time, and its existence was forgotten by the European world for more than 1,000 years, until it was rediscovered by the Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt in 1812. It is this sudden and almost complete oblivion of such a majestic and once prosperous city that is one of its main mysteries. The reasons for the desolation of Petra are not fully clear, but most historians and archaeologists agree that it was the result of a complex of factors and not a single catastrophic event. The main reason is considered to be a change in trade routes. With the development of sea transportation and a change in political geography, overland caravan routes through Petra lost their importance, which undermined its economic foundation. The Nabateans, who were primarily merchants, lost their main source of income, and the city began to decline. In addition, strong earthquakes that occurred in the 4th and 8th centuries AD caused significant damage to the city's infrastructure, destroying many buildings and water supply systems, which made life in Petra less comfortable and safe. These natural disasters could have contributed to the mass exodus of the population. Epidemics or climate change may also have played a role, although there is little direct evidence for this. As a result, the inhabitants gradually left the city, and it fell into desolation, becoming a ghost town buried in the sand, waiting for its new discovery. Despite fairly logical explanations for Petra's decline, questions remain about why the city was so quickly and completely abandoned, and why its existence was forgotten for an entire millennium. Some alternative theories suggest that the decline of Petra may have been caused by unknown factors that are not reflected in historical records. For example, the sudden depletion of water resources, despite a developed water supply system, could make life in the desert impossible for such a large city. Perhaps there was some internal social conflict or religious schism that led to a mass exodus of the population. Some esotericists attribute the disappearance of Petra to the loss of a special spiritual meaning or energy, which in their opinion was associated with its unique location in ritual buildings. Perhaps the Nabateans discovered something in the depths of the rocks or lost treasures that forced them to leave the city in a hurry, keeping it a secret, which could be a kind of curse or a mystical event that has not been preserved in writing. In Bedouin folklore passed down from generation to generation, Petra is often referred to as the city of genies or the city of spirits, as it was believed that its rock dwellings were inhabited by supernatural beings. These legends tell of hidden treasures guarded by spirits, and that the ancient Nabateans possessed secret knowledge that allowed them to carve such grandiose structures out of stone. Local legends say that the city was abandoned not because of wars or nature, but because its inhabitants angered the spirits or lost touch with the earth, which led to their gradual disappearance and the transformation of the city into a silent monument. Such legends give the archaeological mystery a mystical, almost fairy tale hue. Why was such a magnificent city as Petra so suddenly and completely abandoned that its existence was forgotten for centuries? What secrets of its decline are still hidden in its stone walls and rock-cut facades? Can new archaeological discoveries shed light on the true reasons for its neglect and on the life of the ancient Nabateans, who created this miracle in the desert and then disappeared, leaving behind only silent evidence of their former greatness? El Dorado, the Golden City or Gilded City, is a mythical place that has stirred the imagination of European conquistadors and adventurers for centuries. The legend of it originated in the 15th-20th century among the Spanish conquerors, who, having conquered the Aztec and Inca empires, were obsessed with the search for even greater riches. The legend was based on a real custom of the Muisca Indians in Colombia, which consisted in the dedication ceremony of a new leader. According to legend, the new leader covered his body with gold dust and then plunged from a boat into the sacred lake Guatavita, throwing gold jewelry and precious stones into it as an offering to the gods. This tradition, described in European sources, quickly transformed into the legend of an entire country, city, or even king that was made of pure gold, or a place where gold was so abundant that it was used for everyday purposes. El Dorado has become synonymous with unimaginable wealth and the main driving force for countless and often deadly expeditions deep into South America. Dozens of conquistadors, including Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada, Francisco de Orellana, and Sir Walter Raleigh, dedicated their lives to finding this mythical city, but none ever found it, only discovering ancient Native American artifacts and encountering inhospitable jungles and hostile tribes, which only fueled the aura of mystery surrounding this elusive Golden Kingdom. Despite numerous expeditions and centuries of searching, El Dorado was never found in the form in which it was described by legends, as a city of gold. Modern scholars and historians agree that El Dorado never existed as a real city made of pure gold. This was probably the result of exaggerated rumors and misunderstandings of Native American rituals by Europeans. The conquistadors, blinded by their thirst for gold, interpreted descriptions of Muisca ceremonies as evidence of untold riches that could be easily found. In addition, the Indians could deliberately tell Europeans stories about distant golden cities to distract them from their real settlements or lure them to dangerous jungle regions, which was an effective way to protect against invasion. The gold artifacts found in Lake Guatavita, although valuable, do not indicate the existence of an entire golden city, but only confirm the practice of making offerings. Thus, El Dorado was probably nothing more than a myth, but it played a huge role in the colonization of South America and became a symbol of unfulfilled hopes and human greed. However, the complete inability to find the Golden City in its legendary form has given rise to many alternative theories and assumptions. Some proponents believe that El Dorado may not have been a specific city, but a symbol of a lost civilization or a network of gold mines that were destroyed or hidden from Europeans. Perhaps the Indians really had knowledge of places with huge reserves of gold, which they carefully concealed. Other versions suggest that El Dorado may have been an underground city, hidden in caves or tunnels inaccessible to surface explorers. There are also esoteric theories that claim that El Dorado is not a physical place, but a spiritual state or hidden dimension accessible only to those who seek not material but spiritual riches, or that it was transported to another dimension by ancient magic to avoid desecration. The legend of El Dorado has had a huge impact on Western culture, becoming synonymous with untold riches and pipe dreams. It has inspired many works of fiction, films, and adventure stories, where characters embark on perilous journeys in search of this elusive golden realm. It became a symbol of the thirst for discovery, the obsession with gold, and the tragic consequences of this greed. In South America, especially among the descendants of indigenous peoples, legends of El Dorado are mixed with legends of secret places where ancestral knowledge and treasures are stored that are inaccessible to outsiders, which gives this story a deep cultural and mystical context. Did El Dorado really exist, or was it just a figment of the sick imagination of conquistadors blinded by the thirst for gold? What Native American secrets and treasures are still hidden in the depths of the Amazon, which may have become the source of this legend? And why were so many people willing to sacrifice their lives in search of this elusive golden realm that seemed to beckon them from the heart of the wild and untamed jungle? Anomalies and strange events, where logic fails. There are moments in history when the very fabric of reality seems to tear, and events occur that cannot be explained in terms of logic, science, or even the most daring assumptions. These are anomalies, sudden, unexplained phenomena that challenge our understanding of the laws of nature and causation. From spontaneous bursts of fire to mysterious footprints and unexplained signals, these incidents leave only confusion and a sense of deep mystery, reminding us that our world can be much more complex and strange than we used to think, and that beyond the threshold of our perception, there are forces that are still beyond the control of our minds. The phenomenon of spontaneous human combustion, SER, is one of the most horrifying and inexplicable phenomena in history, which for centuries plunged into horror and bewilderment. This is an extremely rare and frightening phenomenon in which the human body, or a significant part of it, burns to the ground without a visible external source of ignition, often leaving untouched the surrounding objects and tissues that should have ignited in the first place. The first documented cases of SER date back to the 17th century, and since then more than 200 such incidents have been recorded, many of which look completely absurd from the point of view of physics and chemistry. MERS victims are often found sitting in chairs or lying in beds, reduced to a pile of ash, while furniture, clothing, or even newspapers nearby remain untouched or only slightly charred. Sometimes only the limbs, feet, or hands remain intact, which looks especially creepy and inexplicable, as if the fire selectively destroyed only the body, ignoring everything else. This paradox, a violation of all the known laws of combustion, makes VSWR one of the most frightening and unsolved mysteries in criminology and medicine. The most common scientific hypothesis that attempts to explain SER is called the wick effect. It suggests that the human body, especially rich in fat tissue, can act as a candle or wick if the source of ignition, for example, a dropped cigarette, a spark from the fireplace, faulty electrical wiring, first ignites the clothes. Body fat begins to melt and seep into the fabric of clothing, which acts as a wick. This wick then burns slowly but very hot for many hours, evaporating the fat and turning the body to ash. The high temperature achieved by such combustion and the lack of ventilation, for example in a closed room, can explain why the body burns completely while surrounding objects remain untouched. However, this theory does not explain all cases of SERS, especially those where there is no visible source of ignition or when the body is completely incinerated without the visible involvement of clothing. In addition, the temperature required to turn bones to ash, more than 1500 authorities show, is usually reached only in crematoria, which is extremely difficult to explain by ordinary combustion, even by the wick effect. Despite attempts at rational explanations, the phenomenon of SER has given rise to many mystical and paranormal theories. Some believe that this is the result of a spontaneous release of energy inside the human body, possibly due to electric fields, chemical reactions, or even an unusual form of bioplasma. Others speculate that HSS may be caused by the anger of supernatural forces, such as demons or poltergeists, who use fire to destroy their victims, or by the spontaneous manifestation of pyrokinesis, a person's ability to mentally summon fire that is out of control. There are versions that this may be due to anomalies in the space-time continuum, when a body suddenly falls into a zone where the laws of physics are violated, which leads to instantaneous and complete combustion. All of these theories, of course, have no scientific support, but they reflect a deep sense of helplessness and horror at a phenomenon that challenges the very foundation of our understanding of life and death. The SSWR phenomenon is deeply rooted in folklore and popular culture, becoming the inspiration for numerous horror stories, films, and novels. From the writings of Charles Dickens, who described SSWH in his novel Bleak House, to modern thrillers, the phenomenon has always evoked awe and fascination. Often in such stories, the HRF is associated with curses, unholy acts, or the inner sin of the victim, which is an attempt to explain the inexplicable through moral categories. This phenomenon continues to remind us of the fragility of the human body and of invisible forces that may be operating beyond our comprehension, leaving only ashes and unresolved questions in their wake. What actually causes spontaneous human combustion? Is this solely the result of natural, albeit rare, physical processes? Or are there forces unknown to science that can lead to such a terrifying end? Why do surrounding objects often remain untouched when the body is completely destroyed? And what sinister secret lurks behind every case of SER, making us shudder at the thought of the possibility of such a sudden and incomprehensible death? Cooper's footprints are one of the most intriguing and unexplained photographic anomalies that has haunted the Cooper family of Texas for centuries, and have become the subject of heated debate in the paranormal world. The photo itself was taken in 1959, according to some sources in the 1950s, in the new home of the Cooper family in Texas. The family had just moved in, and the parents wanted to take a picture, capture the happy moment. The mother is sitting on the couch, and the father is holding the baby in his arms. Two elderly women are visible in the background. Everyone smiles. The house is habitable, and nothing portends trouble. It was an ordinary, joyful moment in the life of an ordinary American family. However, when the photo was developed, it turned out to be a creepy and inexplicable object. Right in the center of the image, hanging upside down from the ceiling, you can see a dark silhouette that resembles a human figure. This figure seemed to be floating in the air, its head level with the ceiling, and its legs hanging down. The blurriness and unusual position give it an eerie, almost inhuman look. The entire Cooper family claimed that no one was in the room at the time of the shooting, and certainly no one was hanging upside down from the ceiling. This photo was not only a shock to the family, but also the subject of heated debate among researchers of the paranormal, because it seemed to represent irrefutable proof of the existence of ghosts or some other abnormal entities. The skeptical explanation of Cooper's footprints focuses on the version of double exposure or a film defect. In those days, photography was analog, and the film could be accidentally exposed twice, or it could have invisible defects that appeared in the form of strange spots or silhouettes. Perhaps some chemical reaction or mistake occurred during the development process that created this creepy image. It is also possible that this was the result of a hoax or deliberate deception, although the Cooper family has always denied this. Some believe that the figure could be some object hanging in the background, which was distorted due to the effect of motion blur or poor lighting, or it was one of the family members who accidentally got into the frame in a very unusual position, which turned into something sinister when developed. The absence of a negative and original film complicates detailed analysis and makes it almost impossible to accurately determine the cause of the anomaly. However, proponents of paranormal theories insist that Cooper's footprints are genuine proof of the existence of ghosts or poltergeists. They point to the distinct features of the human body, the unusual posture that could not have been an accidental mistake, and the fact that the Cooper family never changed their statements. For them, this is more than an optical illusion or a film defect. It is an instant impression of an invisible entity that has manifested itself at the time of shooting. Some suggest that it was the spirit of the previous occupant of the house or some entity associated with the place. Others see it as proof of the existence of energetic life forms or temporal anomalies when a creature from another dimension or another time appeared in the photo. The mystery is reinforced by the fact that similar anomalies were not observed in other photos of the Cooper family, which makes this case even more unique and difficult to explain. The story of Cooper's footprints is deeply rooted in urban folklore and mystical tales. It has become one of the most famous examples of ghost photos and is often cited in books and TV shows about the paranormal. This photo evokes a sense of ominous presence and reminds us that even in everyday moments of our lives, invisible secrets can be hidden that are just waiting to be revealed. It has become a symbol of the fact that sometimes even objective reality captured on film can challenge our understanding of the world, leaving only a feeling of chilling horror and bewilderment. What is really captured in the Cooper family photo? Was it a sinister trick of fate, a technical error, or a true manifestation of a supernatural entity? Why did this particular family, and at this very moment, witness such an inexplicable anomaly? And what other invisible forces can lurk around us, waiting for the moment to manifest in our reality and remind us of the fine line between the visible and invisible world? The Tunguska meteorite, or Tunguska event, which occurred on June 30th, 1908 in eastern Siberia, is one of the greatest and still unsolved mysteries of the 19th century, which do not fit into the framework of ordinary natural phenomena. On that summer day, a colossal explosion occurred near the Podkamennaya Tunguska River in what is now the Krasnoyarsk territory, with an estimated power of 10 to 30 megatons of TNT equivalent, about 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The explosion toppled about 80 million trees over an area of more than 2,000 square kilometers, and the shock wave circled the Earth twice, recorded by seismographs around the world. The light phenomenon from the explosion was visible at a distance of up to 800 kilometers, and the bright night sky was observed for several days throughout Europe. Despite the enormous power and scale of the event, no impact crater characteristic of the fall of a large meteorite was found, nor significant fragments of meteoritic matter. This lack of a crater and meteorite material, along with the unusual nature of forest damage, trees were felled radially from the center, but at the epicenter itself, some remained standing upright, although devoid of branches, became the source of numerous theories and speculations, turning the Tunguska event into one of the most intriguing mysteries of modern science. The most widely accepted scientific theory explaining the Tunguska event suggests that it was an explosion of a cosmic body, such as a stony comet or asteroid, that exploded in the atmosphere 5 to 10 kilometers above the Earth before reaching the surface. An explosion in the air explains the absence of a crater and the absence of large meteorite fragments, since the body probably consisted of ice or loose rocks that completely evaporated during re-entry and subsequent explosion. The powerful shock wave generated by such an explosion could have caused a radial collapse of the forest, and the telegraph pole effect, trees in the epicenter remaining upright but devoid of branches, can also be explained by the dynamics of an air explosion. However, even this theory cannot explain all the nuances, such as the strange magnetic anomalies recorded after the event, or the complete absence of microscopic traces of cosmic matter that should have remained after such a large object. Since the official theory does not provide exhaustive answers, the Tunguska event has become a fertile ground for many extravagant and fantastic hypotheses. One of the most popular is the theory about the explosion of a spaceship of an extraterrestrial civilization. Proponents of this theory suggest that the Tunguska object was an alien ship that either crashed or exploded in the atmosphere to prevent a collision with Earth, or its crash was part of some mission. Other theories include the explosion of antimatter, the fall of a black hole, or microscopic black hole, that passed through the Earth, or even Nikola Tesla's experiment of transmitting energy over a distance that got out of hand. There are also hypotheses that it was a manifestation of an unknown natural phenomenon, such as a powerful release of natural gas or methane from the bowels of the earth, or even a ball lightning of colossal size, although none of them can explain the scale of destruction and specific consequences. In Siberian folklore, especially among the Evenks and Yakuts, there are ancient legends about a heavenly fire, or a thundering god, who came from heaven, destroying the forest and causing great fear. These stories, passed down from generation to generation, may have been echoes of the Tunguska event or other similar natural disasters that struck the region long before 1908. Locals often associate this place with anomalous phenomena and invisible forces that still live there, warning travelers to stay away from the cursed land. Some believe that this place still holds traces of the heavenly guest, and that its energy continues to influence nature and those who dare to penetrate its depths, which only increases the mystical aura around this phenomenon. What really exploded over Tunguska in 1908? Why was there no crater or meteorite fragments found that should have been left after such a powerful collision? Is this just an anomaly, but a natural phenomenon? Or are we faced with evidence of the intervention of extraterrestrial civilizations or technologies unknown to science? And what other secrets are hidden in the silent taiga that holds one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, continuing to challenge our understanding of the cosmos and our own history? Bloody clues and unsolved murders, echoes of the crimes of the ages. History, in addition to great events, also contains dark pages of unsolved crimes and murders, which, despite all the efforts of the investigation and decades of analysis, have not found their explanation. These mysteries, often shrouded in a halo of mysticism and conspiracies, haunt historians, criminologists, and ordinary people. They remind us that evil sometimes goes unpunished, and the truth can be forever hidden in the shadows of time, leaving behind only terrible questions and echoes of fear that do not fade even after centuries. Jack the Ripper is arguably the most famous and terrifying serial killer in history, whose identity and motives have remained unsolved for more than 130 years. In the autumn of 1888, London, especially the Whitechapel area of the East End, was gripped by horror over a series of brutal murders of prostitutes. Police have linked the Ripper to at least 5 murders known as canonical: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. All the victims were brutally murdered, their throats cut, and their bodies mutilated with incredible brutality and knowledge of anatomy, which suggested the killer's surgical skills. The murders were committed at night in dark alleys, and each time the killer disappeared, leaving almost no trace. This caused widespread panic in London, and the police conducted an unprecedented investigation, but despite huge efforts, the killer was never caught. Jack the Ripper has become the archetype of the mysterious, elusive evil lurking in the city's shadows, and a symbol of unsolved brutality that continues to haunt the minds of people around the world. Over the decades of investigation and analysis, many theories have been put forward regarding the identity of Jack the Ripper. The suspects included people from all walks of life, from members of the royal family, such as Prince Albert Victor, the grandson of Queen Victoria, which is one of the most enduring and sensational but unproven theories, to famous artists such as Walter Sickert, doctors, lawyers, and even unbalanced butchers. They also considered the possibility that the killer could be a foreigner, or a sailor who committed crimes while in port and then left England, which would explain his disappearance. Most theories focus on his alleged surgical skills, which would indicate a person with a medical background. The police once suspected a butcher, a surgeon, and a lawyer, but there was not enough evidence against any of them. The lack of modern forensic methods, DNA analysis, fingerprints, at that time significantly complicated the investigation and allowed the killer to escape justice. All the evidence was circumstantial, and witness statements were often contradictory, which only added to the mystery. Among the most extravagant and conspiracy theories about Jack the Ripper, there are suggestions that secret societies, such as Freemasons, are plotting to hide some secret related to the royal family. Some believe that the Ripper was a woman who disguised herself as a man to avoid suspicion, or that it was several killers who worked together, which would explain the variety of handwriting in some of the murders. There are versions that the murders were related to occult rituals or satanic cults, and that each victim was sacrificed to some dark forces. There are also suggestions that the killer had some kind of supernatural ability that allowed him to elude the police, or that he was some kind of ghost of London, the embodiment of evil and not a real person. These theories, although they have no scientific basis, feed an interest in the mystery and turn the Ripper into an almost mythical figure. The story of Jack the Ripper is deeply embedded in London's urban legends, especially in the Whitechapel area, where tours of his crime scenes are still held. It has become one of the most popular subjects in literature, film, and television, spawning countless novels, movies, TV series, and even musicals. The image of the Ripper has become a symbol of unsolved evil and the dark side of human nature. London folklore still tells stories of its ghost haunting the foggy streets, or how its spirit haunts those who come too close to solving its mystery, which gives this criminal mystery a mystical and timeless character, making it an elusive villain whose shadow still hovers over foggy London. Who really was Jack the Ripper? Why did he appear so suddenly and then just as suddenly disappear without leaving any clues behind? What were his motivations, and why were his crimes so brutal and ritualistic? And can we ever solve this age-old mystery, or will Jack the Ripper forever remain an elusive ghost, a symbol of evil lurking in the darkest corners of the human soul? The assassination of John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, on November 22, 1963 in Dallas, Texas, is one of the most tragic, dramatic, and deeply discussed events in modern history that changed America forever. On that day, as the presidential motorcade was passing through Dealey Plaza, shots rang out and Kennedy was fatally shot in the head. Shortly thereafter, Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine who, according to the official version, acted alone shooting from the window of the book depository, was arrested. 2 days later, Oswald was murdered by Jack Ruby on live television, which only served to increase suspicion and spawn countless conspiracy theories. An official investigation by the Warren Commission in 1964 concluded that Oswald was the sole killer. However, a later investigation by the U.S. House of Representatives in 1979 found that Kennedy was probably killed as a result of a conspiracy, although it was unable to determine specific participants or motives. This contradiction between official conclusions, as well as an abundance of unexplained facts and conflicting evidence, turned the Kennedy assassination into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, which still divides American society and excites the minds of researchers around the world. The main official version, supported by the Warren Commission, states that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter operating from the Texas School Book Depository building. His rifle and shell casings were found at the crime scene, and his background indicated possible motives. However, this version faces numerous contradictions. The most famous is the magic bullet that, according to the Warren Commission, pierced Kennedy and Texas Governor Connally, making 7 wounds and remaining almost intact. This seems physically impossible. Also questionable is the speed with which Oswald allegedly fired 3 well-aimed shots from an old rifle, as well as the fact that many witnesses heard shots from different directions, including from the grassy knoll located in front of the president's car, which indicates the possibility of a second shooter. Numerous witnesses, including Secret Service agents, saw unusual activity in the Dealey Plaza area before and during the murder, which only adds to doubts about the version of a single shooter. The unexplained murder of Oswald himself was also an important factor in the birth of conspiracy theories, as many saw it as an attempt to silence him. Amid the official controversy, countless conspiracy theories have emerged, covering a wide range of possible actors and motivations. Among the most popular versions, Mafia Kennedy could have incurred the wrath of organized crime because of the increased fight against it by his brother Robert Kennedy. CIA, there is a theory that some elements of the CIA were dissatisfied with Kennedy's policy towards Cuba after the failure of the Bay of Pigs operation, or his plans for de-escalation in Vietnam. Anti-Castro Cuban exiles, these groups may have hated Kennedy for his betrayal during the Bay of Pigs invasion. The USSR or Cuba, although less popular, these versions suggest the involvement of foreign intelligence agencies. Military-industrial complex, Some believe that Kennedy was killed because of his desire for peace and reduced military spending, which was contrary to the interests of influential circles. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson. There are theories that he may have been involved in a plot to take over the presidency. All of these theories, while lacking definitive proof, are fueled by a plethora of inconsistencies in the official investigation, mysterious deaths of witnesses who could shed light on the case, and a systematic cover-up that continues to this day, as many of the documents in the Kennedy case remain classified. The assassination of John F. Kennedy was a profound trauma to American society, a symbol of lost innocence and perpetual paranoia. It has inspired thousands of books, documentaries, works of fiction, and TV shows, where every conspiracy theory has been thoroughly analyzed and reinterpreted. In American folklore, the Kennedy assassination is often seen as the curse of the Kennedy family that haunts its members. This event created a deep distrust of the government and official institutions, which is still felt in American society today. It reminds us that even the most powerful people can fall victim to invisible forces and conspiracies, and that the truth sometimes remains buried under a mountain of lies and secrecy that continues to haunt the nation. Who really killed John F. Kennedy? Was Lee Harvey Oswald the only shooter, or were more powerful forces behind the murder? Why did official investigations so often contradict each other, and why are many documents on this case still classified? And will humanity ever be able to solve this dark mystery that continues to cast a shadow over American democracy and remind us of the sinister forces that can change the course of history with one shot? The SSRWR phenomenon is deeply rooted in folklore and popular culture, becoming the inspiration for numerous horror stories, films, and novels. From the writings of Charles Dickens, who described SSWH in his novel Bleak House, to modern thrillers, the phenomenon has always evoked awe and fascination. Often in such stories, the HRF is associated with curses, unholy acts, or the inner sin of the victim, which is an attempt to explain the inexplicable through moral categories. This phenomenon continues to remind us of the fragility of the human body and of invisible forces that may be operating beyond our comprehension, leaving only ashes and unresolved questions in their wake. What actually causes spontaneous human combustion? Is this solely the result of natural, albeit rare, physical processes? Or are there forces unknown to science that can lead to such a terrifying end? Why do surrounding objects often remain untouched when the body's completely destroyed? And what sinister secret lurks behind every case of SCR, making us shudder at the thought of the possibility of such a sudden and incomprehensible death? Cooper's footprints. This is one of the most intriguing and inexplicable photographic anomalies that has haunted the Cooper family of Texas for centuries, and has become the subject of heated debate in the paranormal world. The photo itself was taken in 1959, according to some sources in the 1950s, in the new home of the Cooper family in Texas. The family had just moved in, and the parents wanted to take a picture, capture the happy moment. The mother is sitting on the couch, and the father is holding the baby in his arms. Two elderly women are visible in the background. Everyone smiles, the house is habitable, and nothing portends trouble. It was an ordinary, joyful moment in the life of an ordinary American family. However, when the photo was developed, it turned out to be a creepy and inexplicable object. Right in the center of the image, hanging upside down from the ceiling, you can see a dark silhouette that resembles a human figure. This figure seemed to be floating in the air, its head level with the ceiling and its legs hanging down. The blurriness and unusual position give it an eerie, almost inhuman look. The entire Cooper family claimed that no one was in the room at the time of the shooting, and certainly no one was hanging upside down from the ceiling. This photo was not only a shock to the family, but also the subject of heated debate among researchers of the paranormal, because it seemed to represent irrefutable proof of the existence of ghosts or some other abnormal entities. The skeptical explanation of Cooper's footprints focuses on the version of double exposure or a film defect. In those days, photography was analog, and the film could be accidentally exposed twice, or it could have invisible defects that appeared in the form of strange spots or silhouettes. Perhaps some chemical reaction or mistake occurred during the development process that created this creepy image. It is also possible that this was the result of a hoax or deliberate deception, although the Cooper family has always denied this. Some believe that the figure could be some object hanging in the background, which was distorted due to the effect of motion blur or poor lighting, or it was one of the family members who accidentally got into the frame in a very unusual position, which turned into something sinister when developed. The absence of a negative and original film complicates detailed analysis and makes it almost impossible to accurately determine the cause of the anomaly. However, proponents of paranormal theories insist that Cooper's footprints are genuine proof of the existence of ghosts or poltergeists. They point to the distinct features of the human body, the unusual posture that could not have been an accidental mistake, and the fact that the Cooper family never changed their statements. For them, this is more than an optical illusion or a film defect. It is an instant impression of an invisible entity that has manifested itself at the time of shooting. Some suggest that it was the spirit of the previous occupant of the house or some entity associated with the place. Others see it as proof of the existence of energetic life forms or temporal anomalies when a creature from another dimension or another time appeared in the photo. The mystery is reinforced by the fact that similar anomalies were not observed in other photos of the Cooper family, which makes this case even more unique and difficult to explain. The story of Cooper's footprints is deeply rooted in urban folklore and mystical tales. It has become one of the most famous examples of ghost photos and is often cited in books and TV shows about the paranormal. This photo evokes a sense of ominous presence and reminds us that even in everyday moments of our lives, invisible secrets can be hidden that are just waiting to be revealed. It has become a symbol of the fact that sometimes even objective reality captured on film can challenge our understanding of the world, leaving only a feeling of chilling horror and bewilderment. What is really captured in the Cooper family photo? Was it a sinister trick of fate, a technical error, or a true manifestation of a supernatural entity? Why did this particular family, and at this very moment, witness such an inexplicable anomaly? And what other invisible forces can lurk around us, waiting for the moment to manifest in our reality and remind us of the fine line between the visible and invisible world? The Tunguska meteorite, or Tunguska event, which occurred on June 30th, 1908 in eastern Siberia, is one of the greatest and still unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, which do not fit into the framework of ordinary natural phenomena. On that summer day, a colossal explosion occurred near the Podkamennaya Tunguska River in what is now the Krasnoyarsk territory, with an estimated power of 10 to 30 megatons of TNT equivalent, about 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The explosion toppled about 80 million trees over an area of more than 2,000 square kilometers, and the shockwaves circled the Earth twice, recorded by seismographs around the world. The light phenomenon from the explosion was visible at a distance of up to 800 kilometers, and the bright night sky was observed for several days throughout Europe. Despite the enormous power and scale of the event, no impact crater characteristic of the fall of a large meteorite was found, nor significant fragments of meteoritic matter. This lack of a crater and meteorite material, along with the unusual nature of forest damage, trees were felled radially from the center, but at the epicenter itself, some remained standing upright, although devoid of branches, became the source of numerous theories and speculations, turning the Tunguska event into one of the most intriguing mysteries of modern science. The most widely accepted scientific theory explaining the Tunguska event suggests that it was the explosion of a cosmic body, such as a stony comet or asteroid, that exploded in the atmosphere at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers above the ground, without reaching the surface. An explosion in the air explains the absence of a crater and the absence of large meteorite fragments, since the body probably consisted of ice or loose rocks that completely evaporated during re-entry and subsequent explosion. The powerful shock wave generated by such an explosion could have caused a radial collapse of the forest, and the telegraph pole effect, trees in the epicenter remaining upright but devoid of branches, can also be explained by the dynamics of an air explosion. However, even this theory cannot explain all the nuances, such as the strange magnetic anomalies recorded after the event, or the complete absence of microscopic traces of cosmic matter that should have remained after such a large object. Since the official theory does not provide exhaustive answers, the Tunguska event has become a fertile ground for many extravagant and fantastic hypotheses. One of the most popular is the theory about the explosion of a spaceship of an extraterrestrial civilization. Proponents of this theory suggest that the Tunguska object was an alien ship that either crashed or exploded in the atmosphere to prevent a collision with Earth, or its crash was part of some mission. Other theories include the explosion of antimatter, the fall of a black hole or microscopic black hole that passed through the Earth, or even Nikola Tesla's experiment of transmitting energy over a distance that got out of hand. There are also hypotheses that it was a manifestation of an unknown natural phenomenon, such as a powerful release of natural gas or methane from the bowels of the Earth, or even a ball lightning of colossal size, although none of them can explain the scale of destruction and specific consequences. In Siberian folklore, especially among the Evenks and Yakats, there are ancient legends about a heavenly fire or thundering god who came from heaven, destroying the forest and causing great fear. These stories, passed down from generation to generation, may have been echoes of the Tunguska event or other similar natural disasters that struck the region long before 1908. Locals often associate this place with anomalous phenomena and invisible forces that still live there, warning travelers to stay away from the cursed land. Some believe that this place still holds traces of the heavenly guest, and that its energy continues to influence nature and those who dare to penetrate its depths, which only increases the mystical aura around this phenomenon. What really exploded over Tunguska in 1908? Why was there no crater or meteorite fragments found that should have been left after such a powerful collision? Is this just an anomaly, but a natural phenomenon? Or are we faced with evidence of the intervention of extraterrestrial civilizations or technologies unknown to science? And what other secrets are hidden in the silent taiga that holds one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, continuing to challenge our understanding of the cosmos and our own history? Bloody clues and unsolved murders, echoes of the crimes of the ages. History, in addition to great events, also contains dark pages of unsolved crimes and murders, which, despite all the efforts of the investigation and decades of analysis, have not found their explanation. These mysteries, often shrouded in a halo of mysticism and conspiracies, haunt historians, criminologists, and ordinary people. They remind us that evil sometimes goes unpunished, and the truth can be forever hidden in the shadows of time, leaving behind only terrible questions and echoes of fear that do not fade even after centuries. Jack the Ripper is arguably the most famous and terrifying serial killer in history, whose identity and motives have remained unsolved for more than 130 years. In the autumn of 1888, London, especially the Whitechapel area of the East End, was gripped by horror over a series of brutal murders of prostitutes. Police have linked the Ripper to at least 5 murders known as canonical: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. All the victims were brutally murdered, their throats cut, and their bodies mutilated with incredible brutality and knowledge of anatomy, which suggested the killer's surgical skills. The murders were committed at night in dark alleys, and each time the killer disappeared, leaving almost no trace. This caused widespread panic in London, and the police conducted an unprecedented investigation. But despite huge efforts, the killer was never caught. Jack the Ripper has become the archetype of the mysterious, elusive evil lurking in the city's shadows, and a symbol of unsolved brutality that continues to haunt the minds of people around the world. Over the decades of investigation and analysis, many theories have been put forward regarding the identity of Jack the Ripper. The suspects included people from all walks of life, from members of the royal family, such as Prince Albert Victor, the grandson of Queen Victoria, which is one of the most enduring and sensational but unproven theories, to famous artists such as Walter Sickert, doctors, lawyers, and even unbalanced butchers. They also considered the possibility that the killer could be a foreigner, or a sailor who committed crimes while in port and then left England, which would explain his disappearance. Most theories focus on his alleged surgical skills, which would indicate a person with a medical background. The police once suspected a butcher, a surgeon, and a lawyer, but there was not enough evidence against any of them. The lack of modern forensic methods, DNA analysis, fingerprints, at that time significantly complicated the investigation and allowed the killer to escape justice. All the evidence was circumstantial, and witness statements were often contradictory, which only added to the mystery. Among the most extravagant and conspiracy theories about Jack the Ripper, there are suggestions that secret societies, such as Freemasons, are plotting to hide some secret related to the royal family. Some believe that the Ripper was a woman who disguised herself as a man to avoid suspicion, or that it was several killers who worked together, which would explain the variety of handwriting in some of the murders. There are versions that the murders were related to occult rituals or satanic cults, and that each victim was sacrificed to some dark forces. There are also suggestions that the killer had some kind of supernatural ability that allowed him to elude the police, or that he was some kind of ghost of London, the embodiment of evil and not a real person. These theories, although they have no scientific basis, feed an interest in the mystery and turn the Ripper into an almost mythical figure. The story of Jack the Ripper is deeply embedded in London's urban legends, especially in the Whitechapel area, where tours of his crime scenes are still held. It has become one of the most popular subjects in literature, film, and television, spawning countless novels, movies, TV series, and even musicals. The image of the Ripper has become a symbol of unsolved evil and the dark side of human nature. London folklore still tells stories of its ghost haunting the foggy streets, or how its spirit haunts those who come too close to solving its mystery, which gives this criminal mystery a mystical and timeless character, making it an elusive villain whose shadow still hovers over foggy London. Who really was Jack the Ripper? Why did he appear so suddenly and then just as suddenly disappear without leaving any clues behind? What were his motivations, and why were his crimes so brutal and ritualistic? And can we ever solve this age-old mystery? Or will Jack the Ripper forever remain an elusive ghost, a symbol of evil lurking in the darkest corners of the human soul? The assassination of John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, on November 22, 1963 in Dallas, Texas, is one of the most tragic, dramatic, and deeply discussed events in modern history that changed America forever. On that day, as the presidential motorcade was passing through Dealey Plaza, shots rang out and Kennedy was fatally shot in the head. Shortly thereafter, Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine who, according to the official version, acted alone, shooting from the window of the book depository, was arrested. 2 days later, Oswald was murdered by Jack Ruby on live television, which only served to increase suspicion and spawn countless conspiracy theories. An official investigation by the Warren Commission in 1964 concluded that Oswald was the sole killer. However, a later investigation by the U.S. House of Representatives in 1979 found that Kennedy was probably killed as a result of a conspiracy, although it was unable to determine specific participants or motives. This contradiction between official conclusions, as well as an abundance of unexplained facts and conflicting evidence, turned the Kennedy assassination into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century, which still divides American society and excites the minds of researchers around the world. The main official version, supported by the Warren Commission, states that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter operating from the Texas School Book Depository building. His rifle and shell casings were found at the crime scene, and his background indicated possible motives. However, this version faces numerous contradictions. The most famous is the magic bullet that, according to the Warren Commission, pierced Kennedy and Texas Governor Connally, making 7 wounds and remaining almost intact. This seems physically impossible. Also questionable is the speed with which Oswald allegedly fired 3 well-aimed shots from an old rifle, as well as the fact that many witnesses heard shots from different directions, including from the grassy knoll located in front of the president's car, which indicates the possibility of a second shooter. Numerous witnesses, including Secret Service agents, saw unusual activity in the Dealey Plaza area before and during the murder, which only adds to doubts about the version of a single shooter. The unexplained murder of Oswald himself was also an important factor in the birth of conspiracy theories, as many saw it as an attempt to silence him. Amid the official controversy, Countless conspiracy theories have emerged, covering a wide range of possible actors and motivations. Among the most popular versions, Mafia Kennedy could have incurred the wrath of organized crime because of the increased fight against it by his brother Robert Kennedy. CIA. There is a theory that some elements of the CIA were dissatisfied with Kennedy's policy towards Cuba after the failure of the Bay of Pigs operation, or his plans for de-escalation in Vietnam. Anti-Castro Cuban exiles. These groups may have hated Kennedy for his betrayal during the Bay of Pigs invasion. The USSR or Cuba, although less popular, these versions suggest the involvement of foreign intelligence agencies. Military-industrial complex. Some believe that Kennedy was killed because of his desire for peace and reduced military spending, which was contrary to the interests of influential circles. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson. There are theories that he may have been involved in a plot to take over the presidency. All of these theories, while lacking definitive proof, are fueled by a plethora of inconsistencies in the official investigation, mysterious deaths of witnesses who could shed light on the case, and a systematic cover-up that continues to this day, as many of the documents in the Kennedy case remain classified. The assassination of John F. Kennedy was a profound trauma to American society, a symbol of lost innocence and perpetual paranoia. It has inspired thousands of books, documentaries, works of fiction, and TV shows, where every conspiracy theory has been thoroughly analyzed and reinterpreted. In American folklore, the Kennedy assassination is often seen as the curse of the Kennedy family that haunts its members. This event created a deep distrust of the government and official institutions, which is still felt in American society today. It reminds us that even the most powerful people can fall victim to invisible forces and conspiracies, and that the truth sometimes remains buried under a mountain of lies and secrecy that continues to haunt the nation. Who really killed John F. Kennedy? Was Lee Harvey Oswald the only shooter, or were more powerful forces behind the murder? Why did official investigations so often contradict each other? And why are many documents on this case still classified? And will humanity ever be able to solve this dark mystery that continues to cast a shadow over American democracy and remind us of the sinister forces that can change the course of history with one shot? Ancient prophecies and apocalyptic visions, riddles of the future in the past. Humanity has always sought to look into the future, understand its fate, and predict future events. Over the centuries, prophets, oracles, and clairvoyants have appeared in various cultures, offering their visions of the future, from great catastrophes and the fall of empires to the birth of new epochs and spiritual awakenings. These ancient prophecies, often written in symbolic and cryptic language, continue to stir minds, causing both awe and deep debate about their authenticity, interpretation, and impact on the course of history. They remind us that time can be nonlinear, and the fate of humanity may already be preordained by some higher forces whispering to us about future events from the abyss of ages. The prophecies of Nostradamus, a 16th century French apothecary and astrologer whose full name is Michel de Notre Dame, are among the most famous and widely discussed in history. His most famous work, The Centuries, published in 1555, is a collection of 942 quatrains written in a vague allegorical language that mixes French, Latin, Greek, and Provençal dialects. Quatrains, with their vague images, symbolic names, and lack of clear timelines, describe, according to his supporters, events spanning thousands of years, from his own days to the distant future. Nostradamus. Interpreters claim that he predicted many key historical events, including the Great Fire of London, the French Revolution, the rise to power of Napoleon and Hitler, world wars, the September 11th terrorist attack, and even pandemics. However, his language is so vague and ambiguous that it allows almost any interpretation, which is what makes his prophecies so mysterious and elusive to decipher unambiguously. The scientific community and most historians agree that Nostradamus' prophecies are the fruit of skillful wordplay, symbolism, and post-factum after-the-fact interpretation. Skeptics point out that the language of his quatrains is so vague and ambiguous that they can be adapted to almost any historical event after it has already occurred. They do not contain specific names, dates, or geographical indications, which is key to a true prediction. For example, the phrase, "a great city will be engulfed in flames," can be attributed to any major fire in history. Critics also point out that many of Nostradamus' predictions that supposedly came true were heavily distorted or thought up by his interpreters to correspond to real events. In addition, a huge number of quatrains remain unexplained or outright erroneous if you try to interpret them literally. Thus, for science, Nostradamus' prophecies are nothing more than a literary curiosity, and his fame as a prophet is the result of the human desire to find meaning in chaos and believe in miracles, even if it takes a lot of imagination. However, for millions of people around the world, Nostradamus' prophecies remain a source of mystical knowledge and faith in his prophetic gift. Proponents claim that the vagueness of the language was intended to avoid inquisitorial persecution, and that Nostradamus used astrology and occult knowledge. For your visions, they believe that his quatrains contain hidden codes and symbols that can only be revealed through deep esoteric analysis. Some believe that he had the ability to clairvoyance or received information from extraterrestrial sources, and his prophecies are a warning to humanity of future dangers. The most ardent supporters of Nostradamus are ready to review his texts after each major world event, finding in them more and more confirmations of his prophetic power, which only supports a lively interest in his works and strengthens his reputation as the greatest prophet of all time, able to see through the veil of the future. In folklore and mystical traditions, Nostradamus is often portrayed as a powerful magician or holy prophet, able to penetrate the secrets of time. His image has become synonymous not only with predicting the future, but also with esoteric knowledge that can only be accessed by a select few. Legends tell us that he used magical mirrors or special rituals to get his visions, and that his books contain not only predictions, but also hidden messages that can open your eyes to the true nature of the universe. In the modern world, Nostradamus remains a cultural phenomenon. His name constantly pops up when discussing world crises, catastrophes, and upcoming apocalypses, which makes him an eternal symbol of human fear of the unknown future and the desire to foresee it. Were Nostradamus' prophecies genuine predictions of the future, or are they just the result of clever interpretation and hoax? Did he really have the gift of clairvoyance, or is his fame only the result of a human desire to believe in predestination? And what did this mysterious French apothecary really want to tell us when he wrote down his vague quatrains, which still continue to excite minds and cause disputes about the fate of humanity? Unexplained phenomena of nature voices of the Earth itself. Our planet, Earth, never ceases to amaze and sometimes frighten us with its inexplicable phenomena. In addition to the usual thunderstorms and earthquakes, there are natural phenomena that challenge our scientific knowledge, as if nature itself whispers to us about hidden forces that we still cannot understand. From mysterious light anomalies to strange sounds coming from the bowels of the earth or the sky, these phenomena remind us that we live on a living, sometimes unpredictable planet whose secrets are still far from being revealed. The Taos hum is a mysterious, low-frequency humming sound that has been heard for decades by some residents and visitors of the small town of Taos in New Mexico, USA. This phenomenon is one of the most persistent and difficult to explain acoustic mysteries of our time. Hum is described as a distant, monotonous, low-frequency sound, similar to the sound of a diesel engine running or a distant compressor. Its peculiarity is that it is heard only by some people estimated to be about 2% of the Taos population, and yet it is almost not picked up by any known measuring instruments or microphones. Those who hear it describe it in different ways. Someone as a slight, annoying buzzing, someone as a constant, exhausting low rumble that causes headaches, dizziness, and insomnia. Despite numerous studies conducted by scientists and engineers, the source of the Taos hum has never been clearly identified, which has turned it into one of the most mystical acoustic anomalies on the planet. Official and scientific attempts to explain the Taos hum have focused on several hypotheses, none of which provide a comprehensive explanation. One theory suggests that these may be geological phenomena, such as underground vibrations, tectonic plate movement, or seismic activity at very low frequencies that are not felt by most people, but may resonate in some sensitive individuals. Another common theory is industrial sources of noise, such as ventilation systems, remote industrial sites, gas pipelines, or even power lines. But careful testing has not identified a specific source that could explain the phenomenon. Medical and psychological reasons are also considered. Perhaps the hum is the result of tinnitus, which manifests differently in different people, or it is a psychoacoustic effect when the brain interprets background noise or ultrasound as a hum. However, none of these theories explain why the hum is heard only in a specific geographical area of Taos, and why instruments cannot detect it, which is a key feature of the mystery. Despite scientific explanations, the Taos hum has given rise to many more unusual and even mystical theories. Some believe that this is a sound coming from an unknown underground structure or secret military base, possibly associated with experiments on the study of ultra-low frequencies or electromagnetic fields. Others suggest that the hum is a manifestation of extraterrestrial activity, possibly a signal from UFOs, or an underground alien base that generates this sound. There are theories that the Taoist hum is the voice of the Earth, the natural low-frequency vibrations of the planet, which are more intense in this particular place and are picked up by some people. Or it may be a residual effect of ancient rituals or energy anomalies associated with the local Native American culture. These hypotheses, while lacking scientific evidence, highlight the mystical nature of the Taoist drone and the inability of traditional science to fully explain the phenomenon, which only fuels interest in its mysteries. In the folklore and myths of Native Americans living in the Taos area, there are legends about underground spirits or living mountains that emit strange sounds and vibrations, symbolizing the deep connection of the earth with the spiritual world. Some of these legends may be ancient echoes of similar acoustic phenomena. Modern folklore associated with the Taos hum often connects it with the mystical energy of the place, with the fact that Taos is a portal or center of power, which explains its attraction for people looking for unusual sensations. For many locals, the hum has become an integral part of their lives, creating both irritation and a sense of connection with something big and inexplicable that lurks in the very essence of their land. What is the real source of the Taoist hum? Why is it only heard by some people, and why is it not detected by devices? Is this a natural but still unexplained phenomenon? Or is there something more mysterious behind it that goes beyond our understanding? And will science ever be able to solve this age-old acoustic mystery that continues to whisper its secrets from the heart of the New Mexico desert? Crop circles are mysterious patterns formed when plants, usually cereals such as wheat, barley, and corn, are laid out in a strictly defined order, creating complex geometric shapes, lines, and spirals. These patterns, sometimes reaching huge sizes, up to several hundred meters in diameter, appear overnight, often in the most remote and inaccessible places, and are characterized by amazing accuracy, symmetry, and complexity that would seem impossible to create with human hands in such a short period of time. The crop circle phenomenon has been most active since the 1970s, especially in southern England, Wiltshire, Hampshire, but has also been recorded in dozens of other countries around the world. Many of them look like the plants are not broken, but neatly curved at the base of the stem, which makes them even more mysterious. In addition, electromagnetic anomalies are often reported in the vicinity of these patterns, such as battery discharge, electronic device failures, and strange glows, which only fuels the mystical aura around this phenomenon. The main scientific position, and most experts believe, that the vast majority of crop circles are hoaxes created by humans. Since 1991, when David Chorley and Douglas Bowers, after admitting to creating many early circles using simple boards, ropes, and rollers, it became apparent that complex geometry could be reproduced by hand. Skeptics point out that with the advent of the internet and the widespread dissemination of information, artists began to create more and more complex and sophisticated patterns. The absence of magical damage to plants, analysis of which often shows simple mechanical damage rather than unexplained bending, as well as the fact that many circles appear at night in easily accessible places where you can work unnoticed, only confirm this version. In addition, Many authors of circles willingly demonstrate their methods, proving that they are only human ingenuity and skill, and not supernatural forces. Recorded anomalies are often attributed to measurement errors, psychological suggestion, or simply falsifications associated with people looking for sensations. However, despite numerous proofs of the human origin of most circles, there remains a part of the phenomenon that proponents of anomalous origin consider inexplicable. They point out circles that they think are too complex, appear in too short a time frame, or exhibit abnormal effects that cannot be replicated by humans. Some theories suggest that crop circles are messages from extraterrestrial civilizations that use these patterns as a form of communication, possibly with encrypted mathematical formulas or symbols. Other versions speak of natural phenomena, such as swirling air currents, plasma vortices, or ball lightning, which could bend plants to the ground, creating such patterns. There are also speculations about the effects of Earth's electromagnetic fields or underground energy flows that could affect plants. Some esotericists associate circles with the magical energies of the Earth or ancient places of power, where they manifest as patterns of consciousness or energy imprints, which only increases the mystical aura around this phenomenon. In folklore, crop circles are often associated with fairies, elves, or night spirits, who dance in the fields and leave behind mysterious patterns, which is a reflection of ancient ideas about invisible forces that can influence the natural world. In modern urban folklore, crop circles have become part of the myths about UFOs and extraterrestrial civilizations, symbolizing their presence in some form of communication with humanity. Regardless of their origin, crop circles continue to cause fascination and controversy, reminding us that even in our rational world, there is always room for mysteries and unexplained phenomena that make us look at heaven and earth with a new sense of wonder and mystery. What actually creates crop circles? Are they solely the result of human invention and art? Or are some of them still unexplained? Can they be messages from outer space? Or are they manifestations of unknown natural forces? And what is the secret behind these perfect geometric shapes that appear overnight, leaving only confusion and a desire to find answers to questions about our place in the universe? We went through the labyrinth of time, plunging into the darkest and most inexplicable corners of human history and natural phenomena. From the silent disappearances of entire civilizations to the ghosts of ships drifting in the ocean without a crew. From incredible artifacts thousands of years ahead of their time to horrific curses that haunt dynasties and unsolved murders that still echo through the centuries. Each of these 50 unsolved mysteries challenges our rational understanding of the world. We have seen logic run into a paradox, and science looks for answers where there seems to be no evidence. These stories about dark historical secrets are not just entertaining anecdotes from the past. They are a reminder of how little we really know about our world, its depths, and the forces that have shaped and continue to shape it. They tell us about the fragility of human knowledge and the boundlessness of the unknown. Perhaps some of these mysteries will never be solved, forever remaining in the shadow of history, like phantom ships forever floating on the waves of the unknown. Perhaps others are waiting in the wings to be unraveled by new technologies or sudden discoveries that can turn all our ideas about the past upside down. Whether these mysteries are the result of forgotten technologies, supernatural forces, cosmic influences, or just an incredible combination of circumstances, they continue to excite our imagination. They feed our thirst for knowledge, our desire to understand what is beyond the ordinary, and our deep-rooted belief that the world is full of wonders, hidden from the surface view. After all, it is in these unsolved mysteries, in this eternal whisper of the unknown, that the true magic of history lies, calling us again and again to look into the abyss of time and seek answers to the questions that continue to haunt humanity. And perhaps it is in this search, this endless quest for clues, that we find something far more important than just answers. We find ourselves, our infinite curiosity, and our inexhaustible capacity for wonder.